It's a question that's been asked more than it's been answered. How do you win the Daytona 500? This race is more than just man and machine. At Daytona, there's a secret to unlock. Now, some folks call this secret the draft, and others call it the air. But as for me, I call it the wind. And carried with that wind are the spirits of the legends and the gods of racing themselves. So, how do you win the Daytona 500? Ride the wind.
There is always that one race that every driver wants to win. That single event that tilts every team into full gear, which they prep, test, analyze, test, tweak, test, and test some more. That special competition that for some reason is more enticing than even a championship. For every NASCAR fan, driver, and hopeful, that is Daytona. 200 of the most grueling laps around the high banks that force dozens of cars to within inches of one another, all waiting for the other to be the first to blink. Nerves of steel, encyclopedic knowledge, and a winner's instinct will all be needed as we get ready to watch the Daytona 500, Round 2 in the 2018 Majors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth, as always, is Bill Soup Zahn. Next to him is our resident stock car expert, Brian Yazik. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Brian, I know we really don't need to introduce this to most of our race fans out there, but for the few that might still not know about these hallowed grounds, tell us about Daytona.
Oh, it's Daytona International Speedway. It is the playground of NASCAR. This is where everybody wants to win. You're right. There you see it. It has been unchanged since the asphalt was laid into the ground. 2.5 miles or 4.02 kilometers for our metric friends. 31 degrees of banking into the corners. And we're going to be doing our own Daytona 500, kids. That's 200 laps around this joint.
So it is a place that many know, but few can win here. It's a very special thing. We can't reiterate that enough, and it's going to be very, very important to the Oval guys in the Majors series. And Bill, this is the second round, so 2018 now has points on the board. Why don't you tell us what the situation is there?
Lots of championships to talk about. We'll talk about the major ones here, then we'll save some of the minor ones, the sportsmen and the legends, for if a yellow flag comes out. Now, you know, the series opened right here at Daytona a few weeks ago, but that was on the road course. And that first round was a two-class affair, so it produced two winners. In the Pacific region, those two winners were Vincent Lebier and for Kinetic Pacific, behind the wheel of a Nissan, and Unorthodox Racing's Travis Waring in the Audi class. So, how, you may ask, is Steve Driscoll tied for the lead with 245 points? Any takers on this one? Brian, do you have any idea how that could be? I put Brian on the spot. He has no idea.
They both won.
That's what happened. Was that the rules allow? There were two winners, but the rules allow for some of the guys to go over and race in another class. So that's what Driscoll did. He went over and raced that race, by the way, was on the Super Bowl. So I think he took the time off, raced over in the Atlantic, and picked up a win over there. That's why he's tied up front. So with Steve Driscoll for Precision Racing won the Atlantic region in the Nissan class. So we have three drivers tied for the lead with 245 points. For Driscoll and Warling, though, the transition from the 30-year-old sports cars into these modern stock cars was tough because both of those drivers missed the pro split. So to get a better idea of the drivers to watch, let's see which of the top drivers actually made the pro split here. So we can bring up that next graphic. And sure enough, Levier is here qualifying in 15th. Now the hands down favorite is going to be the riding shotgun big gun, that being Blake Reynolds. He qualified on the pole and sits fourth overall in the points thanks to a second in the Audi. Tied with Reynolds in the points is Brian Bennett for Alliance Racing. Bennett did some cross-pollination as well, going over to the European region to finish second in the Audis over there. Also tied for second is Alliance Evolution Jimbo Pfeiffer, who opened the season with a runner-up result in the Nissan. Brian Bennett and Jimbo Pfeiffer sit 24th and 29th on the grid. Bennett's teammate, Jason Freisley, is quick. Watch out for him. He's starting from inside row 7. Finally, before we get away from these points, let's look at the team standings, what's called the Constructor Cups. Now, Alliance Racing has all 5 of its drivers in the pro split. Alliance Evolution put in 4. Only Christopher Hurlo missed out on all the fun. Orthodox Racing went 0 for 5. You got to figure that those guys are stronger on the twisty circuit. Kinetic Pacific has Vincent Leabrier, Gustavo Sean Farini, and Christian Challoner. Oh, Challoner's going to be good. Keep an eye on that guy. Precision Motorsports is another team that's unrepresented today. A couple teams conspicuous by their absence are Ride and Shotgun with 6 drivers total, 4 on the Alpha team. That includes the pole sitter, Blake Reynolds, and 2 more on the Beta squad. Also, Dog Bear Racing has 4. Joe?
Thanks for that, Soup. And they've got 9 minutes really, left in their warm-up. Qualifying has already been set, so we'll get to that once they get out to the pit lane and grid up. But for now, why don't we familiarize our viewers with what exactly is entailed in a Daytona 500 of the Majors variety. So let's go back to Brian and see what is involved in that.
Oh, there you see it on your screen, kids, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit on the front end. 200 laps, 500 miles, just like what we saw a week ago with the real Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Max fuel stint 40 to 41. That's according to some drivers that allegedly that Sean may or may not, or not Sean, Soup may have allegedly slipped a donation to try to get that information, but seeing as I have I've run a couple Daytona 500 myself, that number, especially with the weather that we've got tonight, being a little bit cooler, these engines are going to make a little bit more power. So we could see, I mean, I'd probably say 41 on your entry. It could be a little bit more as the race goes on, depending on if you're on the front of the pack, the middle of the pack, or the back. And 26 incident cap, and we have 1 fast repair, or as Soup likes to call it, 1 spare car.
That's the nomenclature from the series organizer.
We've been asked to
follow
call
the rules.
Yes.
That's right.
As we watch Drew Lawn and now Christopher Hurlo from Alliance Evolution. Boy, team racing going to be a big story here, not just in the fact of how they work out there, but how many teams have shown up in this pro split. We've got Alliance with 9, Riding Shotgun is supposed to have 6 drivers out there, Dog Bear 4, Elite West is supposed to have 3, and Kinetic is 3. That is a big portion of the field just right there. So, Bill, I feel like the rest of the field is going to almost have to kind of make temporary alliances almost to try and compete.
Well, Alliance Racing, they've already made their alliance. Yeah, they have, between the 2 teams that they have, there's 9 of them. You know, I've been watching some of the races in the other regions, and Brian will argue with me on this one. He thinks the upper line will go. I think maybe it'll go, but for the long run, I've seen, if I was a driver, and I was talking to Sean Ambrose, who unfortunately didn't make the top split. In fact, Sean, I promised him a dinner if he made the top split. He came so very close. Now, get this, as I start to ramble here like Donald Trump. Sean wanted to make the top split. He missed it. He's actually in the 3rd split, but he's only a 1/10 of a second behind making the top split. That just goes to show you how close the times are here. But to finish my point on team racing, man, I would not get off the yellow line. If you go to the top, I've only seen it not work.
Well, you know, Soup, I will argue with you on that one, because the top line can work. You need about 3 or 4 guys up there, especially working with each other. Now, you see a lot of side drafting in the real Monster Energy Cup NASCAR series. It's here in iRacing to an extent, not to the same extreme that you see on TV. But especially if you're that top guy, there's a lot of rhythm and mechanics that you could make that even 2 cars up there could get work, or to get up there and make it work. But and especially, and I'm going to set this up, especially because you set me up, you can get a huge run off of the top lane if you get the guy behind you in that top lane pushing you away. I mean, you could gap going down the backstretch the both of you. So, I mean, that top lane is 100% viable. It's just when our guy's going to go out there and get it.
Brian, I got to ask you this question because I've never really raced in this car before. With 30 guys on the low line, what does that racing lap after lap after lap, as soon as we stay green, what does that do for the low line? Does it help it or does it make it hotter and slicker?
Well, it's going to make it hotter and slicker because the way that the track dynamics are set up here in iRacing, the more tires and the more cars that you get in one particular group, that's where the heat's going to be. Especially though, it's going to be that rivalry though as we're on board here looking back at Ehlers, and you see everybody in line right now. I think the first part of this race, you're going to see guys pretty firmly planted against that yellow line. That's going to be their barrier. But as the run progresses, as things go, and you could really see that groove stretch out. I mean, especially if the tires start to wear off, because when you're hooking that yellow line all the way around, you're really working that right front tire. Because at most of your traditional oval tracks or most of your traditional racing in general, you really let the car float out and take it where the momentum of your inertia wants to take you to go. You want to follow right out to that wall or to the curbing or wherever you're aiming at. So especially here when you're hooking that yellow line, you're going to heat up the right front. So I'm assuming that with it being an open setup, these guys have worked on that a little bit, but that still could be, once you get about halfway into a run, could be very interesting to watch.
So if we have a long green flag, it's maybe not a case of the top line coming in, but maybe the low line going away. Am I looking at it the right way?
You're looking at it pretty much the right way. It's kind of a hybrid of both, where you get the top lane kind of goes away a little bit, or the bottom lane goes away a little bit, the top kind of comes in because nobody gets up there being and running it.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Even the experts can't agree. Real quick, though, we're going to give a chat to one of the big teams. Of course, Ride-In Shotgun has Adam Young, and we're going to see what he thinks about this race coming in, as he's got lots of teammates out there to work with, and he's got experience having run the Clash already. Adam, are you there?
Yeah, Joe, I'm here.
So you guys have run a 50-lap race, of course, and a much shorter, but at least gave you some experience with similar drivers, and you've got your setup and race conditions. Has that informed things for you guys? Has this changed any of the setup or any of your strategy?
No, our setup's been pretty much the same since we rolled off the trucks. So I mean, that's going to help us out a ton. Lots of experience with the setup. We know we're quick. And really what the race did was just kind of give us experience in the draft and working together and stuff like that. I mean, I expect to see a lot of what we saw in the duel. I mean, not the duels, the Clash there last week, and a lot of riding shotgun up front.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but we've had a pretty intense debate in here about how this is going to play out. So what do you think about low line versus high line? Do you think that high line will at any point come in during this race?
I think from what I was looking at in the Atlantic division earlier on is the high line's going to try to play a role, but you are going to need a lot of help up there. I know some guys have said 4 cars, some guys have said 5 cars. I'm really thinking almost as much as 6 or 7 cars. You're going to need a lot of help up there if you're going to get it to go. And you got to be consistent up there too. You've got to ride smooth. You can't scrub off any speed in order to have a shot at it.
Well, I know where you want to finish, Adam, but before we let you go, quick prediction, where are you going to finish?
I want to say the win, but I'll be happy with the top 5 here tonight for sure.
All right. Good luck, Adam.
Thank you, Joe.
That was Adam Young, who is driving for Ride-In Shotgun today.
They got 6 guys, Joe.
Partridge.
If it takes 6, they got him. Ride-In Shotgun has 4 and the 2 from the B team, so
They're
work together.
Soup, whenever you ever had a driver give you the straight and honest answer. I'm just saying. I mean, I race these cars. I've been in that boat. Yeah, I'm not going to give away all my secrets. I guarantee if you get 4 guys up there, 3 to 4 guys up there that know what they're doing, that's the key word. That's the key phrasing, is knowing what you're doing. You could get 4 guys up there and you could go way backwards because you don't know how to work that draft from the outside. But I promise you it works.
This is the sort of stuff that we love to hear about, because there's that assumption as we watch 4 of the Alliance drivers here try to practice here, that this, NASCAR and especially Daytona is this just push the gas down and go fast and turn left. So fortunately, the 311 discovers that it's...
He went too fast and too left.
Yes, exactly. That there's so much more to winning at a super speedway than just that. And the drivers are going to have to really earn it out there. As we said, this is the majors and it's the Pacific region, but there is a lot of talent in this Pacific region that really comes out of the woodwork. So with 30 seconds left in warm-up, we are just about getting ready to figure out exactly how this whole thing is going to play out. And Bill, I am excited. We saw a taste of things at a different form of Daytona, but this is a whole different beast.
With that said, we have a lot of familiar names. Joe, we talked about some of the drivers that aren't here. How about Richie Hearn not here? If I was an organizer of a series, if I had somebody who actually raced in a real world Indy 500, he gets a what do they call that? A provisional.
A promoter's exception.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just Hearn, McGreevy, Lovelady, Beltrami, Waltz, Hutchinson, big names that
no
usually
love for Lovelady.
Pro split. Yeah, unfortunately not. So with that, we're going to go through the grid. Your starting order on the pole. No surprise here, Blake Reynolds with Mike Franklin starting in second. Then you've got Ray Partridge in third, row 2 completed by Christian Challoner. That's going to be fascinating between Reynolds and Challoner, 2 top drivers. Chris Pence will start 5th, Brian Barnes in 6th. Then Matthew Thunhorst back in row 4 and 7th. Mark Redeker flanks him in 8th. Clinton Day will start in P9, and the top 10 is rounded out by Tom Dreiling.
And a lot of those drivers in the top 10 use the duels to actually qualify. Their qualifying time was not fast enough, so we congratulate them for getting in. They kind of snuck their way in. In 11th position is Chad Barker. Michael Thompson flanks him. Jason Fleischle sits in the 13th position. He's really fast. Keep an eye on him inside of our pre-race interview. Adam Young. Vincent Levier, he won the opening round. He's back in 15th spot inside of Christopher Hurley, who I said was not going to be here. I guess he is here today. Sorry about that, Christopher. Travis Clement in the 17th spot inside of Little Train, Lionel Callisto in 18, 19 to 20, Doyle Lawrence and Drew Lalonde.
In 21st, Kevin O'Keefe. In 22nd, Gustavo Scianfieri. If I'm going to mess that up, I'll mess it up right now. Brian Bennett in 23rd, 24th in the Jeff Gordon spot, going to Patrick Fleming. 25th to Stacy Hunter, 26th to Paul Slavonic. Nick Kuhn in 27th, Jimbo Pfeiffer in 28th, and shotgun on the field is John Ehlers.
So 29 car field today, not the traditional 43, but that was a intentional choice by the organizers. The full 43 car field produced a little bit of overly chaotic races with that extra spare car, so they wanted to kind of streamline things, keep it a little bit tighter, get some better racing with maybe slightly fewer cars. So as we got about half a lap to go on the warm-up, traditional question, I'm going to go to Bill first.
Blake Reynolds.
Yeah,
sorry.
You know
Brian?
what? Before Amjad said it, I'm going to look at Challoner as a contender or a challenger to Blake Reynolds' reign here in the Daytona 500.
All right, let's see what the Kinetic Pacific driver can do. Number 78, as we said, starting on that second row as the Mustang pace car comes around out of turn 4. 500 miles lay ahead of us here at Daytona International Speedway. For the third time on GSRC, the Majors shows up at one of the fastest ovals in America. Pace car getting ready to peel off now. Going to give control to Blake Reynolds. There he goes. Accelerates immediately, does not wait around. His teammate next to him, Mike Franklin, can move down if he wants, and he does as soon as he's across the line. They had to wait until they crossed that start-finish line to be able to change lanes, and you can see everybody already, Brian, looking like they want that low line.
You're absolutely right. On lap 1 of the race, turn 1, that's exactly, everybody wants to get here. The key to getting into the rhythm in here and making sure that you're around at the end is to not do anything in the first part of the race to really jeopardize yourself. When I've run Daytona 500s here on iRacing, I break it down into basically 50 lap segments. So the first 50 on lap 50, I want to make sure I've still got a full car. In the second one, by the end of lap 100, I want to make sure I'm starting to work my way to where I want to be. And then you get to 150 and you decide, you know what, I've made it this far. Let's send it a little bit further. Blake Reynolds, though, leading that train, single file all the way back to Kevin O'Keefe and Drew Lalonde battling it out right around the 19th position.
That high side as the number 3 very fittingly up there in his traditional colors. Unfortunately, though, Looks like he is being hung out to dry as they are definitely moving backwards along the line. We did have one starter from the pit lane, and he is all by his lonesome. Ray Partridge hoping for a caution early on. If he doesn't get one in a couple laps here, he could find himself a lap down. And Bill, it is possible to at least come back from that, but really not the way you want to start things off.
Yeah, I don't mind being out of the mix, hanging back a little bit, but I don't want to be back there by myself in case there's trouble. And I'm sure we're going to find some yellow. You know, there was a lot of talk in the forums about the restarts or about the starts, about people sandbagging and lagging back. I think he had a nice, clean start there. Everybody held good position.
Well, you saw Blake and his teammate really time that thing perfectly at the start. It was 110% by design. But speaking of someone that's not getting any favors right now, I'm taking a look at the number 18 machine. Yep. Chad Barker. Unfortunately for him, he's barking up the wrong tree because he is up there all by himself.
He's not losing too much ground right now.
Oh,
we got a caution.
Put it out!
Stacy Hunter. Stacy Hunter was the first car. Looks like Stacy got up in the wall, the 39 machine, and came down right in front of Nick Kuhn.
Took evasive action. There was a checkup in the middle of the field. The 311 of Patrick Fleming was ahead of the 39. You can see the results. So the spare car is going to be used up early.
I think I saw the 3 get through there. I mean, on my screen, no, not clean. Never mind. So there's some net code relief there.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only car I think that made it through clean is Jimbo Pfeiffer, I believe, as we ride on board with Nick Kuhn. Looks like, from what we saw there, we caught a glimpse of Hunter's hands and just looked like he lost control.
Well, I know in the fixed set, it can, depending on the weather, it can get a little squirrely on entry into 3. Just because of the way that the track really ramps up into the banking. So I don't know if that, and then having to make an evasive maneuver kind of worked really against Stacy. Now he's got a brand new car and rolling back out on pit road, plenty of time to get away. So I don't know if those two things combined and really kind of added up to that bad situation. But, I mean, never a great idea when you got to bring out the backup car on lap 5.
Now, on the pit lane, we saw 3 Elite West cars come on in. This is interesting. Looks like team strategy very early.
Well, I mean, you know, with a 200-lap race, 40, you know, you basically break it down into 40-lap segments, 40, 80, 120, and 160, and you're done. This buys a little bit of extra time on the other side, though. So what this could be is if these guys can get out there and run by themselves, if you could actually get 5 or 6 cars into a lane and into a groove, you can make up time on a big pack. So not surprised that a couple guys, especially this early, throw some rights, throw some fuel in it, and get on out there, because it brings them a little off sequence. So I mean, especially if their plan already was to maybe hide out in the back, put everybody back there, especially because it was a lot of team cars, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed, it was the Elite West drivers. I didn't quite catch all of them that went in, at least which drivers, but I recognized the paint schemes. And it was very curious to me that they all decided at the same time, Bill.
Yeah, I think there's nothing to lose here. I think they come in now. I think Brian's on it. They were back of the back get together. It's way too early. They have an extra 5 laps. What that does allow them to do is maybe go a little bit farther and happen to catch a lucky yellow that comes out after everyone's made a stop.
Bingo. I mean, you could be multiple different strategies here. I mean, especially if they're, like I said, we're going to ride out back anyway. This gets everybody together into one group and makes it a little bit easier on the TeamSpeak side or whatever their preferred method of communicating is, to get everybody together instead of, you know, trying to get someone to jump up and hang out and then potentially miss the end of the draft. So not that far off of a strategy, I think.
Bill, you said you had multiple other championships for us to talk about. Sportsman, I understand, is one that's interesting.
This is a fun one. This is for the guys who are not quite as fast. Dick Muller leads the way for Dog Bear Racing. Racing Red. Muller posted an impressive 6 in his Nissan in the opener. Speedworks looks strong. They got a couple guys up there with Dan Gerber and J.D. Snyder. They sandwiched Brett Trezine in 3rd. And how about Riding Shotguns Motorsports? They're everywhere. They got Scott Gruber tied for 4th.
And cars are now getting double file for the restart. Lights are off on the pace car. Your order up at the top of the field: Reynolds, Franklin, Pence, Thunhorst, and Challoner. Currently your top 5. Someone duck in below the yellow line there. Not sure what happened with that.
Probably just avoiding a little checkup back there.
I think that was Chris Pence just getting down below, but it's no big issue here on the pace lap, I believe. In fact, from what we understood from what Dawson told us on the last broadcast, that's actually a strategy maybe on fuel saving.
Yeah, if you can cut the, because running at the bottom of the corners, obviously that's the shortest way around. Well, guess what's a little shorter still is that apron, especially if you're trying to hit a number right on the nose. Run it through the apron in the bottom of the corner. You might save, not much, but if you do it enough, could pay off at the end.
All right, one more time. Our first restart here on lap 6. Round 2 of the 2018 Majors. You're watching the Pacific region here on the Global Sim Racing channel as Blake Reynolds accelerates away through the tri-oval. And we're seeing it yet again as his teammate, as soon as he crosses the line, Franklin is down in behind him.
Once again, I'm kind of surprised that Pence wasn't a little bit more up on that. Kind of expecting, if I was them, I'd be expecting the same thing. Now, unless is he a team car on that one? The scheme looks similar, but the make
Pence
isn't.
I don't believe Pence is on the same team.
Huh. Same paint scheme, just different stuff.
Thunhorst, though, the 98, he really lost out on that restart.
On the top, didn't have any friends. He had to drop all the way back to 6th.
Most drivers getting single file a little bit farther back. One up top, I believe. Is that Leherbier?
Yeah, he's up on the top side in the 027 machine. He's your points leader, and he's not going to have any friends. It's going to be a while before he gets in. They're being tough on him.
Yeah, no one's letting him back in. There's a small hole right there.
Yeah,
he's going to make it work. That's one way to do it. If you don't got any friends, well, make some friends.
Well, Clement lets him in, the number 2. Interesting that actually, I see the number 2 on the corner. Oh, wait, no, that's the 111 that I'm looking at. Sorry. The number, I was going to say the number 2 is Kalisto's number.
And it is number 2, and he's out there racing right now in 15th spot. Little train back there just racing, doing what he does to staying out of trouble.
Correction, Pence is riding Shotgun Motorsports, so weird that is running that different scheme. They must have 2 teams out there, potentially.
They do.
You said there's an Alpha and a Beta, right? So I'm assuming that the Alpha's running the Fords and the Beta's running the Chevys.
I don't know about that, but that makes sense.
I'm no mathematician, but 1 + 1 = 2.
For Shotgun, it might be Remington and Colt. I don't know.
Well, I was going to suggest it should be like Oak and Maple.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Chad Barker, once again, that number 18 has no luck. He's up on the high side. Maybe he just likes it up there. Currently sitting next to Brian Barnes.
It is fun running up there. I mean, it really is. Especially if you're early on in this race. He's got a big hole right there in front of the 59, and he's kind of up there. So I have a feeling that he might be trying. Isn't there a couple other Dog Bear guys back there towards the middle back? He could be trying to hook up with some of his friends.
There was at least one involved in the incident, I remember. It was a green machine. I can't remember which driver it was.
Yep.
Dog Bear's here today with lots of cars. They got Barker, Drew Lalonde, Ray Partridge, and Nick Kuhn.
But you see, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about at the start of the show. If you're up there by yourself and you know what you're doing, you can at least pull a side draft down. So, I mean, he's been up there by himself, and he's not exactly falling back. Like, you would see a lot of guys jump up to the outside, and they'd be left completely on their own, just like they've got a big parachute mounted to the back of the spoiler. He's up there, he's getting down on the exit of the corner and then driving straight off. And it's kind of propelling his car, so he's hanging out perfectly all by himself.
Fortunately, one car won't really rubber in that high line, but he's getting a friend. Look at this. That's Mark Redeker.
77 decided, hey, you know what? He can do this. I can do this too.
Excuse me, Jason Fleischle.
Yes, Fleischle.
Now, is the 80 the other Alliance machine painted up there? Looks like he's gonna look at the top row though. We've got the 18 and then Alliance machine, Alliance.
Exactly.
Aha! This driver knows what he's talking about.
Kalisto, Fleming, Pfeiffer,
Now, if these guys get
And
hooked
Bennett.
up and they go, they can get to the front. It can absolutely happen. There's another one who's poking out up there, the 98, Thunhorst. He's poking up there. He's another Alliance machine. He keeps poking like he's trying to get a vantage point out the rear view mirror to going, okay, when are they coming? When are they coming? Because the thing is, when you're going to jump up in front, you have to time that perfectly. If you jump up in the middle of the corner, you're going to stall that whole train of cars out back behind you. But if you do it right at the exit of the corner, going up, oh, is it a whole lot of fun.
Here they come. That high line is now moving, and it's got a big Alliance flavor to it.
Oh, if the 98 wants to get up there, he's got to get up there now.
I think he's going to join the tail of them.
He might. Wow, that's a lots of Alliance machines up there.
Yeah.
That's all of them.
I was going to say that it pretty much the entire team, except for the number 98.
And here they come marching to the front. The 18 leading that charge. Chad Barker, he's on a ride right now. Look at that, up to third.
We were talking to one of the ride-in shotgun drivers. They were pretty proud about what they had done with the setup, saying that it was difficult to follow their car, but they wouldn't say why. And I think the Alliance team is going to try and circumvent that problem. Just say, well, we don't need to follow you. We're going to lead you.
It's a solid plan. And really what they mean by that is it's probably the setup on the car is very streamlined. So the car out back doesn't get that good of a tow off of the car in front, but it doesn't matter. That outside line's there. In 2 laps, called it.
Yep, you sure did. And I'll tell you who was the biggest fan of the Alliance team. That is Chad Barker, the Dog Bear man. Said, "Hi, can I join your team?"
And he's up there. He's probably he wants to get a run here, but he's got to get a little bit lower on the exit of the corner to really get that head of steam. The problem though is I'm almost guaranteeing what's going to happen is if the 18 gets out there and Chad gets free of the 66 of Reynolds, he's going to get basically passed on the outside.
This is rather clever from the Alliance team to see Barker up there and maybe think, well, this is an opportunity. That's an extra car to work with us. More cars, more power. Still haven't managed to squeeze by. They're going to lead that lap, that upper line, Chad Barker. In fact, I believe that's his first lap led this whole race.
Honestly, if I'm Chad Barker, I kind of like where I am right now because otherwise, what are my options? To stay on the outside, that's not going to work because the Alliance guys are going to go underneath me, or cut in front of the leader there of Reynolds. That's not going to work either because I think the Alliance guys are going to go around me. So maybe I'll just stay right here.
Yeah, that's not a terrible strategy. Just hang out in that top lane, keep the 66 close. Don't try and get too far out there. The 77, that whole back lane could actually push him out there. So I think it's a little bit of cat and mouse games, especially with the whole, basically all of Alliance up there in the top row.
What's also interesting is now that we've gotten a pretty decent green flag run is we see a few cars take the fastest lap. Vincent L'Herbier seems to have been the final one around that time around to grab it. As we've essentially got one pack, it's not really split up. I think there's a couple cars in the back that have dropped off. Actually, no, only one, and it's Ray Partridge. But the entire field has stuck together. We haven't split up into 2 trains quite yet.
Well, the top 20, they're on that other alternate pit strategy, or I guess the original pit strategy. They didn't come in. You get back to 21st position with Drylings, those guys can all go an extra 5 or 6 laps.
Yep. And they're hanging out right out back, right with each other. So, and they're far enough away that if stuff hit the fan in front of them, they could react appropriately. But they're not so far back that they are going to get left out to dry.
So we watch these 2 lines work their way around. 17 laps in now. We've only had 1 caution so far. Oh, I see an Alliance car dropping off. It's the 98. As they go 3 wide just momentarily. Did something happen to him? Maybe he brushed the wall? Let's take a look at the replay and see what happened to Thunhorst. Let's see if we can go back a little bit farther. Connection problem? He's disappeared on me. Maybe he's having connection problems and he thought it's probably best to just drop off and try and get out of the way.
That was the driver that Brian saw peeking out. Remember, going to peek out there. I thought it was maybe because his car was overheating. He was going out to get some hot air, but maybe his computer was overheating.
Yeah, the worst kind in this sort of racing.
Yeah.
Nobody's been able to gain an advantage yet between these two lines. Barker just staying right there. It's very much a case of Alliance versus riding shotgun up at the front of the field.
You see it kind of 2 by 2 for the first 6 rows backwards. So yeah, and everybody's just hanging out, playing nice for the most part right now.
Brian, does the sim take into account the side drafts that we see so much in real world racing? Is that part of iRacing?
Yes and a no. It's not to the full extent that you do see like what you saw a lot last Sunday in the actual Daytona 500, but it's there to an extent, and it's really just a matter of you've got to get. If you were looking right there in the middle where the 18 and the 77 are kind of running, there's a seam right there along the left side tires. And if you could get kind of your left sides below that seam and get a couple, real close to that car on the inside lane, and then drive it straight off of the corner, straight off of 2 or straight off of 4, you can kind of make it work.
Okay.
Well, I spoke too soon. We're starting to see packs separate. Michael Thompson back in the 20th position is dropping off the main field.
Well, and this is also, when you think about it too, you're halfway into a fuel run for a lot of these leaders right now, and this is where that setup pretty much takes a turn. So the guys that can actually make it hang out front, you can tell that those guys have the really good setup.
Does it take a turn from tires, or does it take a turn because it gets unbalanced with the lighter fuel?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both, honestly, Sue.
Now 20 laps into this race, only a 10th of the way through. Everybody behaving incredibly politely out there. This is a nice turn from previous seasons that we've seen in the majors, with drivers coming from all mixes of disciplines. And this time they really do have everybody who knows their stuff.
And that played a big effect in the team standings in the Constructors' Cups. As you can see that some teams were totally shut out of this top split.
I was going to say, talk about the fuel low and the fuel burning off.
Oh, Barker moves to the bottom.
Oh boy.
Sorry to interrupt you there,
That's
Brian,
fine.
but
There's stuff going on. But what you're gonna run into here is, because there's only iRacing has the setup on the restrictor plates. Daytona and Talladega really locked down. There's only so many areas that you can really maneuver in. So at a track like Atlanta, because that's where the Real Cup Series is at, you have a lot of adjustability that you can really dial into the cars. You can play springs, shocks, adjustments, and stuff like that. The plate track, you really don't have all those tools at your disposal. And a chat question coming in. Heating, the engine heating situation, it really depends on tape, and depending on the tape and where you're at in the pack. Now, if you tuck the front of that car right up to the back bumper, you're going to see the oil and the water temp blinking at you there in a little while. But if you can kind of space it out, so when you look up there at the front pack where right about where Reynolds is to the back of the 18, that's kind of about perfect. You can let the car breathe, you're not full into the throttle, and you can really manage your temps really well, actually, as the race goes up.
I bet you if you ask Chad Barker, after 23 laps, you were in the front on the inside line with Blake Reynolds behind you, would you be happy? I think I'll take that.
Also, by the way, a big thank you to Cy Andra for that question in the chat. Hello to Cy, who races on the Global Sim Racing channel with the Autobahn Motor Car Group Sports Car Challenge, and Blake Reynolds decides to move to the high side.
That's a bold strategy there, Blake. He left his teammate and went to the Alliance side. Basically, the whole premise of Star Wars just happened right there off a turn.
Oh, and well, it worked for him because now he's back low again. It pushed him in front of Chad Barker.
See, that was a power move. So that's exactly what I was talking about. That was able to... Oh, I make the Star Wars reference, and then there's the helmet. That's incredible.
Why you get the big bucks, buddy.
Yeah. But that does kind of go back to what I was talking about. He was able to... There was enough of a gap between he and the 77, and he's kind of used a toe from the 18 to get to the top lane, use that momentum and kind of shove away, and then once he was clear of the 18, jump right back out into the front.
Now, I'm curious, actually, Brian, is that because maybe his car is set up a little bit better to be out in open air, or is this just strictly psychological?
A little bit of the above, all of the above, basically. The 66 is really handling nice. That car isn't coming up off the bottom lane, really, unless Blake wants it to. So that's especially beyond halfway into a fuel run. That's a really good sign of a very well handling machine. And then a little bit of a psychological move of getting up back up there. And that just sent a message to the whole pack, that whole front pack, that Blake Reynolds, once again, is someone to contend with here at the Daytona 500.
Blake Reynolds doesn't use a setup that's good behind somebody. Blake's not being behind somebody's not part of his operating system.
I also feeling this is a message from Reynolds that he is in control. If he wants to be in front, he can run in front as long as he wants to. And we're starting to see the Alliance guys dropping back here.
Yeah, that could be because remember, we're halfway through a fuel run right now. We're expecting these guys on pit road somewhere in the next 15 to 18 laps. When you're up there, you can't get down. So this could very well be a strategic move from the Alliance drivers to go, okay, let's start working our way back and get down into the bottom lane. The issue with that plan is this front pack is still very well strung together. The only gap is back in 17th with Kevin O'Keefe. And the issue is the gap back to Tom Dreeling. That's not enough for 7 cars to fit into. So these guys are going to have an issue here in the next probably 15 laps of where to get down to get to pit road.
How about a tip of the hat to Chad Barker, though? That top line not working quite as well without him leading the way, that the Alliance guys just beginning to drop back a little bit now.
Like I said, this is probably a very strategic move. They could probably push right back up there if they wanted to. But again, it's lap 27 of a 200-lap race. And you see they start to get a little bit of a head run back towards the rear bumper of the 18.
We've been spending all this time talking about riding shotgun and Alliance. How about the Elite West guys? If you look back to 18th, we got Tom Dreiling back there, John Ehlers, and Michael Thompson all line astern. Working a little bit of the opposite strategy, running in the back, just kind of staying out of trouble for now.
That is their entire team. Ehlers, remember, was involved in that early accident. He's taken a stop. In fact, let me see. I think Thompson might have as well. He did.
We're going to get one of the Alliance guys. I thought he was going to try and duck in. That's Fleming in the 311 on the high side, who's fallen off the tail of his teammates. Now, maybe he's going back actually to get, is that Slavonic? Yeah, and there goes Slavonic right there. So maybe just dropping back, letting. Oh, and no, he moves back down to the low side. So I thought maybe he's trying to pick up his teammate, see if he can pull him forward.
I expect those Elite West guys to lead a couple laps here when the leaders have to come in. Remember, they're on that later pit strategy. They'll have, I think, at 4 laps where they can get a little love.
That was Fleming that we were watching there that got a little bit shaky. But as we ride on board with Slavonic, you mentioned Star Wars before, huge fan apparently. Also works as an audio-visual and IT tech for a living. Here's one of those dog bear drivers, another of the major teams down on the low side. That's Nick Kuhn.
Our big mover currently races in 8th, Jimbo Pfeiffer. He is up, oh my goodness, what about 20 positions. Holy smokes.
And, you know, that is down to a driver who really pays attention to details. Jimbo gave us a lot of great information before this race. He had just rows and rows of info about the cautions and how they played out both last year and this year. So he's not just working any sort of strategy. He's looking at percentages. What are chances of when we need to come in? This is a smart guy in that double lot.
Just shaking up front. Looks like Fleischley's now moving up.
I was just going to say, those Alliance guys, we talked about them wanting to, they could move up whenever they wanted to. They just shoved the 77 out front, and now you're watching that top lane. They could be able to make that strike back to get to where they need to be. But like I said, you got about 10 laps till pit stop. So that top lane eventually is going to have to fade out one way or the other.
Jason Fleischley, former champion in the majors back in the 2016 season. couldn't pull the 2017 season together, but he was very happy to see his teammate take it home. Kalisto in the number 2 kept it within the Alliance game room, I guess you could say.
Brian, do you have to be out of that top lane if you're starting to run out of fuel? Do you have to work your way down to the left side?
Well, Bill, imagine yourself on the expressway and your on-ramp is coming up and you're in the far left lane. I mean, it's the same idea, except at the highway level, you're at 75, 80, 90 miles an hour, depending on where you drive.
Well, you've never driven with my wife, then. She'd be good at it.
Look at that. It's up to the high side.
He's doing it again. He jumped up. He's timing that jump perfectly to get up to the top lane, especially when that top lane starts to go. And then he uses that momentum to push himself out front and push himself back into the lead.
It's a battle of the Titans. Reynolds is a driver who could have potentially been a champion last season. Missed out because he missed too many races, but dominated, won race after race, and not just on the oval side, on the road side as well. Then you have Jason Fleischle, who we already mentioned his championship. Both drivers seems to have their teams behind them.
The other driver we talked about in pre-race as a threat, Christian Challenger racing on the inside lane, about 6 back in the number 78 machine.
I'm curious how many of his teammates are here. The Kinetic Pacific. Not sure if we can try and pull up some information on that later.
I can give you that information right now. Give me a second.
While Bill is looking for that, there's Gustavo, one of them, the Brazilian, and it looks like L'Herbier as well. So they have 3 drivers out there.
They have the points leader, and of course, Schiafarini is going to be really good.
Now, we're starting to see this high line disappear as drivers get close to that pit stop, as Brian was talking about. They need to get down and find an opening. They didn't stay together. They each kind of just had to split up, find a little bit of space. Might be able to be helped out by the drivers that are down on that low side. Double lot of Jimbo Pfeiffer could have had a chance, but decided not to take it. Also, Herlo is stuck up there. Just saw, I believe that was the 111 of Clement get down on the low side now.
You're going to see something pretty interesting happen here. Matthew Thunhorst, and Ray Partridge are running by themselves. They're going to pick up Gustavo in front of him, but they are 2 cars not that far away from the whole pack. So this is where you're going to see something pretty interesting happen, especially as that long snake of cars is going to try to get around.
Single filed now, all the way from first, all the way back. Single file, whether it be 26th position, 23rd position.
You know it's getting time for pit stop.
Yeah, they're on a 34-lap stint. Now, some of those were under that first yellow.
I mean, a car that's blinking as they start to catch this.
He's gone off of my screen.
Oh, he's up on the top line. That's a lapped car? He's back. He's certainly not there more than he is there for me.
Lincoln more than a disco ball at Studio 59.
Ooh, that was Studio 54.
54.
No, 59
50 something.
Was 5 points better than you. Really the hip guys, Joe. We went to 59. It was just that much better than 54.
Of course. That's exactly what it did.
Those slower cars moved up to get out of the way. And who is going to get good? Come on, do the right thing, Ray. Hang out there with Matthew. There you go. Get up out of the way, steering the pack down low. And they're going to be up there quite a while.
And that is actually something that is in the rules for this race for the majors. They have asked lapped cars to stay up to the high side to let the main pack through. So that's not just a politeness thing. That is something that you are asked to do by these stewards.
It was a borderline questionable move then, because they came down off of turn 2 and got almost right to the doors of the bottom lane.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing there, but let's see if they come in this time by entering the pit lane. Everybody staying out?
Not yet.
Nobody in.
I think we're looking at another 5 to 6 laps if they really want to run it dry.
Well, I mean, it depends on how much if they rode around in 4th gear under that first caution. I'm sure that some of the top end guys probably saved a little bit of fuel, shut the car off. So the fuel map on this first one could be kind of all over the map a little.
Well, if leading means anything, then I would think the first guy would have to come in and be Reynolds because he's been out front for most of it.
You're absolutely correct. That top lane, or that the front car in the whole pack, they get the worst fuel mileage of everybody.
Still waiting for those 2-lapped cars to work their way to the back of the pack.
Yeah, they're not quite getting the message yet. Now, that is an Alliance machine, that 98. I wonder if he's hanging near his buddy to maybe pit with them and then come off in the cycle of things.
Potentially. I would think he'd want to try and find a hole and get into the low line, though, instead of trying to risk coming down when they come down.
Well, his argument could be if he gets into the low lane, he can be penalized, right? Because the lap cars have to stay high. He's technically staying high.
They're actually gaining ground down the backstretch. There's nothing in the rules that say they have to drop to the back of the pack. They just have to stay to the high side.
Exactly. They are staying to the high side.
Well, we now hit lap 40. Still not seeing any pitters.
Window's going to be open here soon.
Yeah, now here's the deal. Thunhurst, well, he's not a back marker. He's made his pit stop, so he doesn't want to lose any time. He's actually racing these guys, so he's out there. He's in the mix with these rascals. As is the 88 of Partridge. I believe these guys are in the mix. They're just off cycle right now.
Now, I'm seeing Clinton Day grayed out on my screen, but he's staying in position. Has he disappeared from the track here? Oh, no, his throughput.
The problem is there he goes. I was going to say he's not being scored because there's a point in the session that if you're lagging so much, the game actually just stops scoring you. You could still be running around and you could still see everybody, but the game itself stops scoring.
Well, the game has also disconnected him. It's decided he does not have a good enough connection, so Clinton Day is going to have to come back a little bit later when things have solidified.
The game decided that Italy looked like a boot for him.
All right, we're at lap 41 now, and still no takers yet. And still these two cars up on the high side that are a lap down, trying to come back into things.
I'm just going to say it again. I told you so. Just going to drop that out there again.
That's why we have you here, buddy, to make these to have them.
Look at that. You get two guys that know what they're doing, and they can make it work. That's one. Oh, is that one car all by himself?
It is indeed. Who was that?
Brian, while we're looking for that, Brian, let me ask you, those two cars on the top side, they've made their stops.
He overshoots his pit stall.
That's Brian Bennett. Their rubber is faster. Would that make a difference to them? Does that having fresh tires?
A little bit, but not much. Too much.
Bennett finally gets into his stall.
And the other thing too to keep in mind here is that iRacing now for the NASCAR vehicles, your A, B, and C vehicles, they have pit crews, and what it seems now is that the box to get into is much smaller. As you're seeing a couple other lead cars peel off of the main pack here.
That is an Alliance party. Oh, and someone's spinning, I think.
Oh, the 3 car. Someone out in the grass.
That was Drew Lalonde trying to woe it up big time. Amazingly did not hit a thing. And then also I saw Kevin O'Keefe locking him up, trying to come in. Let's watch the replay one more time here. There you can see that big smoke was O'Keefe. Woo, Drew Lalonde. Now, the question is that an unsafe pit entry?
If you're out in the grass, yeah. And Drew Lalonde is still spitting in pit road.
Oof.
Comes the rest of the leaders to the front, or to the pit road.
Well, Alliance pitted, and now Riding Shotgun has decided it is their turn. Now, what is this going to do between them once they come out? Are we going to see two separate groups? Or are they going to be in the mix amongst each other?
Spinning, dude, hold on to it. It's the two. Lionel Kalisto deciding that he wanted to do his best Ken Block impression, getting the car up to steam on the apron. If you want to catch a replay here, there you go.
Well,
watch this.
Trevor Clement lost it in front of him. Watch the car in front. spin. That was on his own. There was no touch there. And then the number 2 and all that. Why did he take to the grass there?
The car was drifting a little bit, and he decided to hang on to it. I do see some front end damage now on that too, right behind the tire, the front tire.
Challenger pits. Looks like with L'Herbier, so he's got a friend to at least get him to push and pull along the way.
Blake Reynolds is out first. Here comes some cars on the top side. Now that's Dreiling. Dreiling has already made his stop, I believe, but he's still off cycle.
Remember, was this the part of the group that pitted early?
I believe so. Yep. Dreiling's been out there for 40 laps. So our leaders now are Dreiling, Ehlers, and Thompson. Hey, those guys are all on the same team.
Now, what could be interesting here is because they decided they're going to hang it out on their own. They've got most of the field trapped a lap down. A caution right now would work out amazingly for these fellas.
The Elite West team leads the way. Go ahead, Bill.
Right, and then the next car out, I believe, I'm showing Challenger. Let's see if he's out in front.
Challenger and L'Herbier. We're going to watch them get blown by on the backstretch. There they go.
Yep. But those guys are out. I believe they're out. It's Bennett. Here's the one that matters. There goes the 71. That's the leader of that, the legitimate leader. Bennett, Partridge in that mix.
I think Bennett is 2 laps down. Remember,
You're
Bennett
right.
was...
You're right.
Yep. So the actual leader, not going to be Ray, not Thurnholm.
Fleischle, I believe.
I think it's Fleischle right now. Yeah, it's Fleischle.
Yep. Well, I've got Ray Partridge.
No, Ray Partridge, yeah. He's on the same lap as Fleischle.
He's in 4th place.
Partridge still needs the pit. Dreiling, Ehlers, Thompson, and Partridge all need to come in. Fleischle is the leader of all the cars who've made a legitimate pit stop, racing in 5th right now.
That will do it.
Now, Challenger that I talked about, Challenger's in 6th.
Getting very
That's
close.
That's a legitimate spot.
Getting very close to the quarter of the way through this race. Oh.
And that's also what you see there. That was entirely by design as a staggered pit road entry. The 06 and the 314 stayed out by the track. The 688 went to the inside wall, so that way they didn't run into each other. I'll be curious to see where these guys get wound up in relation to the cars that pitted, because it seems like, especially with those pit crew changes that I was talking about, it seems like if you have to take 2 cans of gas, the pit stop is so long. Now the 688's rolling.
Yeah, the 78's the car we want to watch. That's really a battle of Fleischle. Now moving up is the 98. That's Thunhurst. Kind of blocks away. 78 going to shoot through the middle.
Oh, and he brushes the wall. That's going to hurt his speed even more.
Oh, got to spin off a pit road all the way down to the inside. That is Ray Partridge. I think he's going to get it squared away down there on the aprons. The game not throwing a caution for that.
So we got Chad. Like we're not going to be able to get a look at that replay, but yeah, Challenger up at the front now.
Now here he goes around the Elite West guys. Those guys came out first. They all dropped points, so that's your leader.
Yeah, but now they're going to be lined up with each other, just a hair off of the main pack, probably exactly where they want to be.
Dreiling, Ehlers, and Thompson racing 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Well, and if you take a look now in the cycle of pit stops, Blake Reynolds was leading before that. And now he's going to come out in the 3rd position.
But with none of his teammates, we should note.
Challenger's the big winner there. Remember, he was back 8th or 9th before the pit cycles.
So he had a relatively fast pit stop. Not quite the fastest of all the lead cars, but a pretty solid stop. He must have had a really good entry into pit road, and he also had a really good exit to get wound up into speed. Now, Blake Reynolds, he's going to try to be a one-man wrecking crew here. There's that side draft that we were talking about there, Soup. He's getting those left side tires right below that seam, about probably 2 foot off of the rear bumper. And then you drive it straight off the corner. The 027's trying to throw a little bit of block. The 77 jumped up to the top lane. So you got 77, 66 if you're into the numbers and games and all that stuff. You got to have 4 cars on the outside versus 3 cars on the inside.
The 4 cars on the outside are 2 ride-in shotgun and 2 alliance, curiously. Pence is there to try and help his teammate, but he's right now split by 2 of his rivals. And they're starting to get the momentum going as they come down the high side of the super stretch. Still, Challenger leading the way. Fascinating how even though we keep calling this a lottery, a crapshoot style racing, that we still see the cream rise to the top.
Funny how that works out, huh?
Uh-huh.
There are 2 pro drivers right up there, Challenger and Reynolds.
And Challenger and L'Herbier are teammates. We should remind our viewers that's KP up there.
And the winner from the opening round. So, yeah, it seems to work out that way.
Trying to get these 2 rows going. That top side struggling to try and get by the bottom 3.
Lap car out in front of the leaders.
That's
Get real
Partridge.
tight in 3 and 4.
Partridge stays high. A couple of the cars in the back decide to just get low. Don't want any piece of this. But they get through safe.
Reynolds not able to make that power move. We saw him make a move from second to first. Not able to quite get it done yet.
Because he's got too much of a gap back there to Fleischle. If Fleischle was closer, they could make that move that work once again. And see now Reynolds, that's a word today. He just decided to jump down, and then you see the 71 of Brian Bennett poking his nose up there, trying to probably get the 77 of Fleischle. Now Reynolds jumps back up to the outside. They're going to be side by side through turns 3 and 4. There's that side draft with a little bit of wiggle. Here comes the 71, 66, 77.
Almost felt like Reynolds wanted to go down to the low line, drop back a little bit, get him a bit of a run, and then swing out. But
now remember, Bennett's a lap down, so right now he's got his lap back. If a caution were to happen, that's reason for him to want to be out front. He ducks down low. Doesn't want to stay up high too long here. As we've been watching this pack, we can't forget about the guys behind them. Right now, interestingly, led by Chad Barker. They do have the Elite West group in there, mixed in.
Yeah, they kind of blended out into a perfect spot. Now, the problem is the 06 and the 688 are hooked up together, but their buddy back there, Michael Thompson, in the 314, he got a little bit separated from his teammates, is right there in front of him. A little bit of a wiggle there off of turn 4. Who was in that blue car? Nick Kuhn. Green car, not blue. I can see colors. I saw Kevin jump up way out high, and that green car there was wiggling.
boys and girls, if you're scoring at home, I'll give you this interval. Pence is in 5th position right now. He's the back of the lead train. 3.5 seconds to Chad Barker, who's leading that second train. We'll see if that goes up or down. I would think that they're single file in the second group. They're behaving a little better. They might have a better pace.
You'd be surprised. The 2 cars side by side up there, if they do it right, they can still be fast. I mean, when you're looking at lap times, Chad Barker was at a 45.41 and Chris Pence 44.93. So they're not making any time. What they really need to be doing is they need to maneuver around the second pack. If they can get everybody in line and they start running what's called the qualifying line instead of hugging that yellow line, they can actually make up a little bit more time.
Yeah, Blake Reynolds in a parking lot probably faster than most of us in a string. So, yeah.
I have raced against him. I can confirm that.
Right now, he's not fast enough to make that high line get him into first, unfortunately.
Yeah, watch that 77. He's kind of laying through there because his teammate's leading the race. So Bennett he's not leading the race. He's leading that front pack. So if Fleischle, if he pushes the 66 out front, that's hurting his teammate.
Yep.
So I guarantee you that 77 is probably running through the tri over here, probably about 80% throttle.
And poking his nose out, keeping his engine cool.
Yeah. It's all a game.
There goes Blake Reynolds to the low side. Finally giving up to see if he can get that high line to work. So now it's just the 77 and as well Chris Pence up there. Is he going to get his teammate, the number 98, joining them? Fun Horse. Oh, now he goes to the low line.
Just from the little bit since I told you to mark it on your clipboards, that interval now was 3.5 seconds. It's now 4.5 seconds. So that front pack is moving.
and now the front pack has lined back up, basically, head to tail or line to stern. So you're going to watch that pack start to scoot away just a little bit more. Pence back there, the trailer or the caboose of that front train, 45.01 last time by. Chad Barker, the leader of the second train, 45.33.
This is NASCAR. You could call it a trailer.
Oh, now see that. Are you assuming things? I'm triggered now.
No. Just saying it would be appropriate. So as we ride on board with the leader of that second pack, Chad Barker, for that Dog Bear team, he's got that number 82, Mike Franklin, who used to be closer up to the front. He's going to want to push to get up to his teammates to try and help up there. But we can't forget, still a long way to go in this race. A caution will bring everything together and nullify these two packs. But so far, only one caution, been clean racing.
I'll tell you who's happy about the green flags. My wife is just ecstatic right now because she's not getting dinner till this race is over, and she's hungry. So she is cheering on this green flag racing.
A relatively large pack here in this second group.
Drew Lalonde, we saw him have all sorts of issues getting onto pit road that last time by. He is a lonely duck sitting up there by the top wall. It's going to let this top pack go, or this front pack go right on by. That's going to put the 33, or that's going to put the 3 machine 1 lap down.
Well, remember when I just said Mike Franklin wants to be up with his teammate? As soon as we left him, he dove around Chad Barker. Oh, as those two cars next to Barker get very close to him, and moved himself up to the front with a little bit of help of the Elite West, but he hangs them out to dry, and they plunge back down the field.
They're getting up there all by themselves, and I think what it seems like the Elite West are trying to do is they might be trying to go hang out back and grab Thompson from the rear. Remember, they were running with each other before the pit stop, and then got kind of separated. There they go. They kind of fall into line. So now there's only 2 cars between the team car back there as the caboose of that one.
Thompson not too worried at this point, as he's a driver who likes to play the long game. Thinks about the bigger picture both in the race and in the championship. So he's probably comfortable just sitting in the back here with only a quarter of the race and some done.
This Elite West guy's going to be able to go about 5 laps longer than anybody else. Brian, at lap 60, and it's going green so far. You've been in the cockpit a lot. You start figuring out the math right now. How many to get to the end at this point, or is it way too early?
I mean, it could be a little bit too early. The rough number of 40. A lot of these top guys have a lot of telemetry that they will use that's available out there. SimRacing apps, JRT1, JRT1, something like that.
Right.
Fuel Dash Pro. I mean, there's a number of apps that are out there that can do a lot of the hard work for you. So a lot of these guys probably know where they sit, but they know if they pit it around lap 40, they know they got to get to around lap 80. And then once you get to lap 80, you got to get to around 120. Now, a caution now, that changes the math around just a little bit, but you're still looking at 3 stops from here, no matter which way you slice. 2 stops, though. No, 3. Math is hard.
You know not to do math on a GSRC.
Well, if we count back from 200, we're looking at one at 160. No, 200. Yeah, we're looking at one at 160 and then one at 120.
Yep. 60, 20, and then 80 and 40. If you run it road course style and you go from the back.
Got it.
Riding on board with Brian Bennett now, sitting in 23rd, but at the front of the field, desperately trying to hold on to the lead lap. He's still hoping for a caution.
If I was in his boat, I'd be calling race control. And, we got debris in turn 3. Thunderstorm. It's raining. We need a caution.
So far, those drivers content to let him stay up front, though. Oh, we got someone peeling off. That's Thunhorst.
Oh, unless he didn't get it full the last time.
He wasn't on the lead lap, though, so he might have been on a different strategy.
There's really no strategy.
Well, Thunhorst was one of the drivers, I believe, involved in the first incident.
Yep.
So,
yeah, he's been kind of on his own here the whole time.
He's taking the full deal, tires and everything.
Looks like.
is going to trim down our front group by 1 car. Now they're at 6.
And Challoner seems very content to let Bennett lead the pack around.
I've been doing a lot of multitasking. Did we have a chance to talk about this group from 16th back yet? Trevor Clement, these Alliance guys. There's got Trevor Clement, Lionel Kalisto, Paul Slavonic, all racing back here, nice and calm. Then our GSRC buddy Adam Young back in that mix. Hunter and Doyle Lawrence.
Slavonic, of course, not on the same lap
Slavonic
as these
is a
drivers.
lap out of there. Okay.
Yeah. Still a part of the pack, though. 3 Alliance, 2 of the ride-in shotgun machines. And Lawrence, I'm not sure what team Lawrence is on. I need to check that here. Oh, he is riding shotgun. So that must be their 3rd team paint. I guess that is not the team paint, in fact. Just out there to confuse us.
I think
This
they're hazing.
group-
He's new. They're hazing him right now. Breaks the team fate. He's right now like packing their bags and stuff.
There's another very calm group. In fact, each of the groups is settled into each other. We saw some side-by-side racing after the pit stops. But after that, everybody decided, it's not worth it. Let's just get single file. So we see Drew Lalonde from Dog Bear come in. Starting to see green flag stops for the 2nd time in this race now. We're on lap 66 out of 200. If you're just joining us, this is indeed a 500-miler around Daytona International Speedway, the Daytona 500 for the 2018 majors. This is the last race of the day. Had 2 others with the European and the Atlantic splits. And of course, last week we saw the international one.
Got a little update, I guess. Doyle is a RSM driver and he
Riding
has a
shotgun.
Riding shotgun, okay.
And yeah, he has private sponsors, we're being told. So that's why.
Why is that coming from Sean Ambrose? Isn't Sean supposed to be racing in the 3rd split right now?
Oh, that doesn't bode well. We're understanding our GSRC cohort has blown his engine. So, sad news for Sean Ambrose, but that's a different split right now. What we're focusing on is what's happening up here. If you're just joining us again, Christian Challoner is our leader. Vincent Larabier, his teammate, is in 2nd. Blake Reynolds, who has led a good chunk of the laps so far, he sits in 3rd right now, very content in line. Main rival for him it has been mainly Jason Fleischle, who sits behind him in 4th. And then Chris Pence rounds out our top 5. They're all in a pack. And if you're seeing 6 cars, well, that's because they've got a lap car in front of them. That's the Alliance car, Bennett, in the 71, trying to get his lap back, hoping for a caution.
Just to point out how successful this series has been, there are 4 different regions, all with multiple splits. I think except for maybe the International didn't go with more splits. And here in the Pacific, 4 splits of 30 cars. My gosh, what a success.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's why we keep stressing that this top split is the best of the best. That is a lot of drivers that you have to prove yourself against just to get into the big game. And then you have to go up against those big boys and try and show you're faster than them even.
Racing, if nothing else, is just a series of proving grounds.
Very much so.
Just when you think you get to one level, oh, there's someone better and faster than you.
One of the stats I always love when they bring out is when the last time a driver who's gotten to Formula One has won last, because you win on your way up, but it's a lot harder to win in F1.
That interval from Pence back to that 2nd group, well, you can forget about them running them down. 8.7 seconds now. Those front 5 plus the lapped car of Bennett are really hustling.
This is the calmest racing I think we've ever seen in a Majors Daytona 500. We're quickly approaching that 2nd set of pit stops. Maybe about 12 more laps, Brian?
Looking at the stint here from the longest one, I see a stint of about 27 laps. So I'm thinking maybe 14 laps here.
Well, we'll find out soon enough as we switch back to this front group. This is very much some strategic racing as drivers aren't going side by side, aren't really challenging, not seeing any wild moves.
No early. I mean, we've been out here racing for about an hour, but we still have 130, make that 129 laps to go.
Let's drop back to 21st position. A couple guys is out here having a nice time. This is Stefan Herlo racing in 21st, followed by Jimbo Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer, a veteran of this series. Pair of Alliance drivers going at it. The 80 and the 00.
Christopher Herlo, I believe, actually. And with Jimbo Pfeiffer, the interesting thing about him is he actually works with video games for a living. With Turn 10 as a test manager. He's worked on games such as Forza. I'm sure most of our viewers have at least heard of that one before.
Well, these guys better get going because the guy they're racing with is Brian Bennett in 23rd position, and he's only half a second back. Here they come.
Yeah, when you're the front car of the lead pack, it's not a bad situation to be in, and that's you're seeing. You know, Pfeiffer and Herlo, they're kind of just hanging out by themselves.
All right, do they have to get out of the way?
I mean,
Bennett is racing for position. They don't have to move up, right?
I mean, they're
He's
not
going to join them.
Technically,
or is it?
Yeah.
Nope. Thought he was.
Risky there. He went up there to maybe pull a little bit of draft to try to keep the space between he and the 78, but it almost cost him dearly.
Those two now go a lap down as they switch up to the high line. Let them through. Is this going to be a repeat of what we saw after the restart?
Well, remember, kids, lap 72, we're going to be about another within 10 laps from pit stops again.
They drop all the way to the tail of this top train, which is good news for the number 71. Excuse me, yes, the 71 of Brian Bennett.
Yeah, that's the Alliance driver up front. Then he's got his teammate just a few cars back.
Every so often, I keep seeing the number 66 peek out of line. I'm pretty sure it's just engine cooling, but he's doing it more than most.
And he's jumping up there to see if you have any friends. A little bit of a dance. It's a little bit of peacocking, if you will. He jumps up there. Everybody around him knows what he's got. So he's jumping up there to see if anybody else is going to jump up there and make the move with him. And cooling the engine like that.
Looking through the order. And
yeah, Joe, it's about 7 seconds before that lead pack gets to the front to this next pack. These guys have to be careful. I'm talking about 15th and back. Fleming, Clement, Callisto, Slavonic, Young.
In pace-wise, yeah, they're going to be in trouble here really quick. You got Gustavo there at the trail end of that pack, and then going back up to Bennett. Bennett's running a 44.80, and Gustavo's at a 45.30. Now, that's still 7 seconds, split a couple tenths. It won't be a problem. It won't be a problem. By the pit stop cycle, but very shortly after that, it probably will be a problem for drivers like Gustavo, for Doyle, Stacy, Adam Young, Paul Slovaknik. These guys are going to have a problem at some point.
If we can get a timing and scoring, if we can put the camera on Doyle Lawrence in 20th, and you can see the interval drop. Now, this is the distance back to the driver in 21st. This is back to Brian Bennett, who's the head of the lead train. You can see this thing. It was 7.5 when we started to talk about it. It's now 6.7 and falling.
That last lap for Lawrence was a 45.4, while Bennett is pulling 44.7s.
Problem. Oh, no. We got a car stopped on the backstretch, but it's below the apron. It's Ray Partridge. Once again, he's having a Daytona 500 he would love to forget. He's down below the line, though, so I don't think that's going to trigger a caution.
And this is the first time we've seen this sort of incident. He was being pushed by the 3 of Lalonde, and it looks like a bad hookup. You're going to see on the replay here. 2 dog bear teammates. Number 3 is going to try to give him a shove. But we've talked about this a lot, Brian, that the bumpers apparently just don't match up well anymore.
Nope. Exactly what you saw right there with the 88 and the 3. I had something exactly the same happen to me in a league race in the A car earlier this month by now. It's just something doesn't line up right. I don't know if it's software based. I don't know if it's a hardware thing. I don't know. Sorry.
It's okay. Well, as we jump back up to our leaders who continue, Bill, to just gain hand over fist on that next group.
You live by the cookie and you die by the cookie, apparently.
Now, the driver, careful. I've learned don't trust a cookie that has a female's name to it. That's all I know. Gustavo Scianfarini, now remember, he fell out of that pack. He's not really with them. He's a lap down. But yeah, Lawrence again continues. The gap now 5 seconds. Fortunately, they're going to have to pit here pretty soon. They're working on a 35-lap stint. I'll tell you who needed the yellow. Well, the bad news was these guys really would have liked the yellow to come out there.
They're putting a lap on the 3, who we just saw have some issues with his teammate. That is Drew Lalonde. And he's not going to elect to jump in. There he goes, finally. I was going to say, grab onto that tail of that train. You might not be on the same lap there, but might as well get whatever speed you can, because he has damage on the front of that machinery.
That was from that first accident, and he elected to not burn his spare car just yet. So he's been hanging out, probably just waiting, and I would think probably waiting until the end of it, or towards the end if there's a wreck piles in that way, and just pulls out the spare car for the end and go.
Well, I think he assumed that there'd be more cautions before now so that he could get as many repairs as he could, or maybe just use that free repair during one of the caution pit stops. But, I mean, no such luck. Anybody who had a strategy based on trying to take advantage of cautions is really just in a bad spot.
110% correctly there. Who are you talking about? Jimbo? We had all the stats and all the numbers and all the spreadsheets. A place like this, you might as well just throw that right out.
And just to show you how true that is, Jimbo, he's down in 23rd, a lap down right now.
Once the leaders got by him, though, Hurlo, I go with Hurlo on this one. Yeah, Hurlo and Pfeiffer, they tucked right back in behind. They're in 22nd and 23rd. The guy that they're chasing is up in the lead here of this group. That's Brian Bennett in 21st. And Bennett continues to close on Lawrence now. 3 seconds. Brian, I'm not sure if they're going to have to wait till after the cycle. The way they're coming, we're about 5 laps away, I think, from pit stops.
It's going to be a tight window. I mean, a lot of these guys, Christian Challoner, 37 laps. Vincent Herbie. Yep. 37, 38 for Reynolds. I mean, these guys are coming up on that pit stop cycle. It's going to be very close. A lot of these guys in the back are going to be sweating bullets.
All right, they're coming up to put another lap on Ray Partridge. And I know you noticed, Brian, that he's way off pace by a number of seconds, but he's actually still within the rules right now. They do have a minimum speed, but they've asked them to be 53 seconds a lap or faster. And right now he's running 50-second laps.
Yeah. I mean, technically he's there by the rule, but I know a lot of guys aren't going to be happy that he's out.
Well, he's 4 laps down currently, as he just lost another one that time by.
I can't remember. I don't think he wasn't the one that had a lot of damage. Really, he didn't take a spare car yet, I don't think. He still might have one in the chamber.
Yeah, that car is very much looking worse for the wear.
Now, all these cars will be, almost everybody's going to be coming in soon.
Here comes the backpack right there. Look at that. 5, 6, 7 cars. Everybody gets
3
to
wide in.
Clean.
And somehow they make it through.
28 hitting his mark. Overshot it just a little bit. Now he's got to back up and go. Oh, God. Oh, the 39 just completely, for lack of a better term, just YOLO'd pit road and missed his stop.
Trevor Clement is still doing K-turns.
Still trying to find his spot.
I mean, I've walked around.
Finally has it.
I've walked around the parking lot of the mall hitting the panic button on the car and not hearing anything. I think that's kind of a racing version of that.
Yeah.
Well, they leave the 111 all by his lonesome. So watch our leaders now come up to go by these cars that have pitted.
What you're seeing is a lot of these pit road mistakes and a lot of these pit road happenings are really going to probably do more to split the packs up more than anything else.
Got some Dog Bear drivers in, Chad Barker and Nick Kuhn. The pair reaching their stalls.
Seems appropriate that Barker would be on Dog Bear. I don't know. This is right.
Both of them come in nice and clean. That Sarge's Place machine going up for tires.
Here comes Bennett off of the lead, or technically off of the lead pack.
Right.
He's got a buddy with him back there.
That's
a
Fleischle.
teammate, Fleischle. Let's see if these guys can get into their pit stops a little better. No dice for Bennett. Let's see what Fleischle can do. He got the memo. He parked it right where he needed to be.
Well, now, Barker was in for a long time. I think Barker with a speeding penalty. 15 seconds longer than everybody else. That looks like a slam dunk to me.
It's pretty stout reasoning. Because when he hits pit road and he hits the line, he's at 69 miles an hour. And no kids, that is not #nice. That is 9 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Top four going around again. Challenger, Lebier, Reynolds, and Pence.
This is, I mean, they're going to be on pit road in the next 2 laps. It's just a rule of rule deduction. And the other thing that we kind of overlooked with Challenger, he wasn't the lead car in the pack, so he was getting better fuel mileage than Brian was.
You could see that car going by on the low line. That was Fleischle, who has to wait now for Brian Bennett to catch up to him. Otherwise, he is just pushing air by himself. Leaders coming around 4 now. They stay out. No, they don't.
Yeah, there's time for them to come in. Now, I'm thinking this is going to turn the lead over to those Elite West guys like Dreilings and Ehlers. They're going to be able to stay out a little bit longer. Thompson as well. Yes, everybody peels off. So now those 3 yellow cars are going to be your leaders.
Oh, Leherbier way beyond his pit stall.
Bill, I don't know if you lean to the left, but this one you were exactly right.
Okay.
The Elite West car staying out. The delayed laughter from Amjad just made that. Thank you, Amjad, for making me feel better.
I got it. The number 78 coming out, but without his friend. Remember, it was Leherbier was his teammate, and he's way back there now.
I mean, and the advantage there for the Elite West guys, I mean, they've got no pressure. It's just those 3. They know how to get off and on pit road. And they're not going to have to worry about some of the stuff that, you know, like Challenger and Reynolds, they're pitting with 5, 6, 7 cars. These guys are just pitting with 3. One stays by the line, one goes to the wall, the third one stays by the line.
Now, we saw Chris Pence duck up above the double yellow line slightly. I don't know how strict they're going to be, but they must merge on the backstretch. He was tempting fate, pushing that hard as fast as he could go on the flat bottom. And there was a couple times he may have gotten 2 wheels over.
So behind the Elite West guys, after they come out, no surprise, Reynolds is out first. Challenger hanging with them. But Joe mentioned it, they lost Leherbier. He's not in there. Pence right with them, though, assuming Pence is going to be okay after that pit exit. But now those 3 guys have separated themselves. 4th, 5th, and 6th. Reynolds, Challenger, and Pence.
Strategies really starting to diverge. Each team has their own way of going about it. However, skill comes into play, as we've seen, as many drivers have missed their pit stall and effectively missed the train because of it.
And I don't know how long it takes to put in 3 laps worth of gas, but that's the advantage that Drailing, the Ehlers, and Thompson will have. I mean, if it goes green all the time, they're going to need less fuel just because they're running farther.
Here they come.
They go, oh no! Ehlers gets a bit of a tap, keeps it together.
He's fine.
Whoa!
Ever so close at the line.
I've driven it in more out of control than that.
Okay. Well, at least he hit his box in control. That was good.
I was going to say, oh, and I just saw a car. That L'Herbier, did he get a speeding penalty? No, he was in for 4 seconds. Now, what is that about?
It felt like a stop and go. What would be? Maybe that could be a race steward assessed penalty.
I didn't see anything come through on the command.
Yeah, I didn't either.
What good does 4 seconds do you? There's no penalty in iRacing that's a stop and go, is there?
Don't believe so.
No, it's a 15-second for speeding.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even entering a closed pit.
All right.
Plot thickens. Vincent L'Herbier throwing us for a loop, at least up here in the booth, trying to figure out why the extra stop. This has sadly put him down to 13th.
The Elite
Before,
West
he
guys
was
come
in
out
second.
in formation. Thompson, Ehlers, and Dreilings. And it looks like they're going to be in fifth. Now, let's see if anybody's coming on them. No, I think that's where they're going to cycle out. Those three guys are going to be in fifth position.
I got Mike Franklin with a head of steam out back behind them. It's just going to get them side by side. Not going to necessarily overtake.
Oh, but they're going to go 3 wide after the tri-oval. They managed to sort it out. Franklin going to the front of the train immediately. Well, that looked like a team play as the other two in his team just kind of let him go up there. And that puts Mike Franklin up to 5th.
And then there's 7 cars there, but the other one that's in the mix, Kevin O'Keefe, we have not talked much about him. He's in 9th, and Mark Riddicker in 10th. Here they all come. Hey, Brian Barnes of the Popsicle Machine in 11th.
Your favorite, Bill.
I love that 4. Get that camera on now. Oh, man. Makes my mouth water just to look at it.
Most of the drivers now down to the low line in that pack. That's still one of the ride-in shotgun cars up top, and it's Ray Partridge, who's found himself a little bit of help now. He's got some pace now that he has a draft.
Got some friends up there just a little bit. Plus, so the draft, it kind of hides the damage on the front end a little bit.
The guy on an island is Jason Fleischle. He's about 3 seconds behind the front 3, about 12 seconds ahead of the next group. He's all in by himself in 4th.
I was looking through the field looking at that, too. He kind of stole my thunder for the next thing I was going to talk about. But he's got a pack with 2 teammates catching up behind him, Jimbo Pfeiffer and Brian Bennett, and they are probably going to fall in line there. Now, the curious thing here will be, because you've got your top 3 breakaway of Chris Pence, Christian Schaller, and Blake Reynolds. 3 cars by themselves, but now they're going to pull in some lap cars behind them. So you're going to have one really big pack here that's going to form back up.
Yeah, let's go to the leaders real quick because here they come. Now look at those 2 guys on the top side. Remember them? That is Chad Barker, who did a good job leading for a while, and Vincent L'Herbier, who had that horrible stop in the pits. They're racing in 13th. They're going to lap down 12 cars on the lead lap.
27 just ducked right in there, making himself some room.
That makes it work. But before we hit the halfway point of this race, we're going to take a short break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with more green flag racing here for round 2 of the 2018 Majors, the Daytona 500. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We watch our leader, Blake Reynolds, in the number 66, up at the front of the pack. We're just about to hit the halfway mark in this 500-miler. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel. Christian Challoner, as we expected, has been one of the main challengers for Blake Reynolds. Fleischle, who we thought was going to be a hard charger for him as well, unfortunately has fallen back, but he is in fourth. We're just waiting for a caution at this point, effectively, as we have only had one in these first 100 laps. Otherwise, it has been green the entire way, Bill.
Lucky dog is going to be huge. And let's talk about that, Randy. You have your front three drivers of Reynolds, Challoner, and Pence. Now, right behind them, that's the car one lap down, Vincent Lebier. He's being chased. That's 12th position. He's being challenged by Fleming. He's in 13th. Chad Barker in 14th. Coming up is Nick Kuhn, Lionel Kalisto, Christopher Hurlow. All these guys battling for Vincent. Adam Young is in this one. Doyle Lawrence. So those guys are all racing to get to be the lucky dog if that yellow ever comes out. I have not read my rules. I'm assuming there's a lucky dog, though, here today.
Yes, I believe they do have a lucky dog in this series for this race. Now, here's the interesting thing, Brian. Should the leaders be worried at all, since those drivers might want to try and jockey for position, get a little aggressive to try and get that lucky dog? Is that a risk to them?
I mean, where the lucky dog is sitting, that's, it's at the very back end of the lead pack. So, I mean, at the split second, they're not super bent out of shape about it. Now, if they start going 2 wide, 3 wide, battling for that lucky dog spot, I mean, if you're Blake, maybe not. If you're Christian, maybe not. But if you're back there third with Chris Pence and you're looking out your mirror and you've seen these guys dancing all around, I would be nervous. I think as a 3 car comes off a pit road right there.
Drew Lalonde takes another of his scheduled stops and gets back out.
Looks like he got his car fixed.
Yeah, that is definitely a spare car. I think he's had enough of losing laps.
Well, and we talk about this high rate of attrition here, just the rapid pace of this race. We have 11 cars on the lead lap. The last car on the lead lap being what machine, Bill?
Oh, that would be I don't know. You got me by surprise.
Right.
The 11 car. It's Brian Barnes, of course.
You mentioned the attrition. We've actually had very little attrition because of that single caution. Clinton Day, the only car that has called it a day. Otherwise,
on his connection base, because he lagged out, he connected back, and then he lagged out again, and he hasn't come back since.
Probably a wise move. Ray Partridge, position 28, the last car running on the field currently.
So if we go back and look at Barnes back in 11th position, this is that next group of He's next group of guys in 11th, just ahead of Mark Redeker in 10th, Kevin O'Keefe in 9th, and then you get to the Elite West guys of Tom Trailing, John Ellers, and Michael Thompson. The reason they're so important is those guys can go an extra 3 or 4 laps.
311. Sorry to cut you off there. The 311 machine of Patrick Fleming. He had a big moment with swatting flies inside the steering or inside the cockpit. Here comes the replay from the doctor himself.
This isn't the first time I've seen him have problems either. He dropped off the back of L'Herbier about a lap and a half ago as well and checked up the pack behind him.
You'll see it here. Goes to the apron like he's following the 27, and then where the banking kicks back up for the front stretch, that car just starts wiggling. I was going to say, onboard would probably be a better shot here.
Yeah, from the Dog Bear
right
Racing Blue machine.
So, and he just kind of gets a little bit of tunnel blind, and then, hey.
And remember, Joe just talked about that from the perspective of Chris Pence with those guys racing behind. That's the battle for the lucky dog.
Exactly. Pence is looking in his mirror going, come on, guys. Come on. Because invariably, there's enough cars up there that if those guys decide to wad it up, that could get very interesting.
Herbier actually gave a little bit of a bump to Pence that time down the backstretch.
Just letting him know he's there.
4
letters.
That's a
risky.
4 letters and an apostrophe for bump trapping. D-O-N with an apostrophe T.
And the risk, and here's the thing though, is the risk is, especially if you guys are battling for the lucky dog, iRacing does not give you the lucky dog if you incurred any incident. Right, if you have an incident hanging over for the caution. So for a lot of people, that means if you got caught up in the wreck, you're not going to get the lucky dog. Even if you get a 0x from bump drafting, you get disqualified from the lucky dog. So maybe not the smartest idea if you're battling for the lucky dog. I mean, it could be a bold strategy. Well, if I'm not going to get it, he's not going to get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what love is, If you can't be with me, then I don't want you with anybody else.
Exactly. A very Romeo and Juliet sort of race.
Boy, this 311 having a tough time sucking up to the back of Herbier. He's been holding well back, which I'm sure Vincent is very happy about at this point. The farther they stay away from him, the easier life is for the Canadian.
Well, this is a really important spot because Herbier is fast. Remember, we saw him racing with the leaders. The only reason he's back there is because he spent about a month and a half trying to find his pit box. So if a yellow comes out, he gets that lucky dog, then he's up in the mix with, what would it be, only 11 other drivers.
Exactly.
And
you think about it, if you're trying to parlay this into a good points night, with 10, 11 cars on the lead lap,
yeah,
you get back on the lead lap, you're guaranteeing yourself, I mean, at the moment, without a wreck, a good finish.
Don't forget that second car in line, the red and black machine Challenger, he's the teammate on that KP team. So another incentive for the 027 to stay with this group.
I have a feeling Pence in the 73 is going to stay right where he is.
I think the 78 and the 73, Challenger and Pence, are happy just to race right there. Let Reynolds do all the work. Burn the fuel.
We're just about halfway through the stint now?
22. Yeah, just a little over half.
So they've got a ways to go.
Well, a little over half for most everybody except those Elite West 3.
Speaking of which, who we've got on screen right now. Now, Fleischle, let's check in on him. How far back was he before Bill? Do you have that in your notes? Sitting in fourth right now.
Yeah, well, Fleischle was about 5 seconds behind, and now he's losing ground to Pence. And actually, he's getting ran down by Franklin, that group. They're coming. This is what my dad used to call hospice racing, when you're racing surrounded by loved ones. It seems like you want to find your teammates and just stay together.
Speaking of teammates of the Alliance guys, Slavonic actually being overtaken by that group led by Franklin right now. They tick off another lap through the tri-oval. They're going to move on the high side, interestingly. That is a lap down car, I'm pretty sure, isn't it? Yeah, Slavonic's a lap down. I wonder if he's going to get a talking to from the stewards for that one.
If there's anybody up in race control, I think they're sleeping right now.
Haven't had a whole lot to do. Got a great game of pinochle going.
Check in on the other splits, and I bet you we're leading them. We're going to get to the checker flag first. Knock on wood. Man, what's some great racing.
Who is that? Tom Dreiling got hung out to dry in this group. There's Rutgers Kev going to stream by. Can the number 06 duck down? He wanted to, but the opportunity passed him by.
You do those on purpose, Joe?
That was well done. Snuck that one in on the pun king.
God.
Very well done.
And I'm not even a father, believe it or not. Now he gets in line once again. Oh, car ducking low. That's Ray Partridge. What happened there? Oh, Ray, it looks like a checkup just forced him to maybe
now he's
get
going to be off of the back, and Ray has just had a Daytona 500 to forget.
Well, I don't think we need to really get the replay, but I believe that Ray Partridge has taken a spare car, so he should be back up to speed. I don't see damage on him.
He and the three, both dog bear cars, have taken the spare.
Wow, this group is getting huge that we're looking at.
Well,
and Challenger seems to have had a connection issue.
Oh, no.
And his teammate fills in the gap.
He's not coming back.
If he were to come back, there's no room for him because Pence got right up in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think he's
break.
gone, boys.
Let's rewind and see where exactly this happened. Always a scary moment in plate racing when a driver in front of you disappears. It's going to be the second car in line of what we're seeing here from this helicopter view. Pence, the number 73, just minding his own business. Oh, you can see how nervous he got, started to pull out of the way. He has not reappeared, I would say. Oh, and he did disconnect. Challenger had a receive throughput fell to unacceptable level message come through the sim.
That's going to cost him at least 4 to 5 laps. If he reconnects, that's probably going to be 3 to 4 laps down. And at this point, that's going to be a pretty hard. It's going to be a pretty big hole to get out of.
Bill,
next time we have
wondered.
one of those disconnects, can we look at it from the cockpit? Because I think you get like an out of body experience if you disconnect while you're. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Bill, I was going to say we wondered if Challenger could bring the race to Reynolds. We wondered if Fleischle could bring the race to Reynolds. Both of them have fallen by the wayside. Is there anybody who could still take this thing away from who was the most dominant driver of all last season?
Not a lot to pick from right here. Right now, it's Chris Pence in second. Everybody else is too far behind. Fleischle going the wrong direction, but it's really not fair because he hasn't had a lot of help out there. He's getting some help. He's fallen back in with some legitimate drivers here of Pfeiffer and Bennett, even though they're a lap down.
We're starting to see some drivers maybe try and take some risks because the 311 of Fleming looked to go to the high side to see if he could get around Leherbier, and instead, well, no, I take that back. He has not looked to get around. He has looked to join his teammates.
And honestly, from what I've seen, drivers that I've watched earlier that had a shot, maybe Leherbier might be one of those drivers. If you can get the lucky dog, he has a shot at it. I thought Chad Barker was pretty impressive when he had a run up in the front.
Yeah, I'd say he would too, and he's the next in line behind Leherbier, depending on how many cautions we get. Frankly, not looking good for anybody hoping for those right now.
Too wide behind him.
I was going to say that Alliance group has unfortunately not stuck in a single file line on the high side. Oh, and then Slavonic really looked like he wanted down low, but there was just not enough space. Sadly, these 4 Alliance drivers have lost more than they gained by coming together.
Brian, when I'm doing road racing and I'm off racing like this, you kind of get into a rhythm. It's kind of fun almost to race by yourself. On an oval, is it hard? Can you lose concentration and make a mistake?
Whoa! Pontiac goes around.
You're going to have problems. Put it out.
21 of Adam Young involved. The 19. Callisto is in there. Trevor Clement.
I
That
just
was
caught the
started
very
with-
side. It caught it at the very far edge of my screen, and it just looked like the 98 went around.
The 19
Oh.
gave him some help. Yeah,
Oh.
just came up to him quicker than he thought, tapped him in the corner, and that was the end of it for a number of drivers. So let's see. Let's get some names. Trevor Clement involved. Nick Kuhn is involved. Doyle Lawrence, Adam Young, Christopher Hurlow, Patrick Fleming, Matthew Thunhorst, and Lionel Callisto all incurred damage. Pretty much nobody in that group behind them got away clean. Fleming sees the smoke. Oh, and his teammate is there before he can do anything about it. We went 117 laps before we got to caution number 2.
And that's going to be good news for Vincent Lehebier. I think he's going to get the wave around. And look where this is going to fall, right about at that 120 mark.
See, this is where things can get interesting.
Seeing a couple cars coming in. Reynolds pits. Lehebier naturally stays out to get his lap back.
Pence
I
comes
see
in.
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we got a few more.
Going to go all the way back to, I think, probably to Barnes, or the last car who's ever on the lead lap. Dreiling coming in.
I think a lot of guys are going to stay around and take their spare car. Fleischle staying out.
He's trying to get his lap back, I believe. Or no. Fleisch was on the lead lap.
Oh, someone just went kaboom under pacing, and I think that was the 21.
And that would be Adam Young, sadly.
Trying to maneuver it around and not have to take the long and dreaded tow. Get back around, get that fast repair, and then the car just decided it had other ideas.
There's just something about the majors for the weatherman. He's always got a black cloud over him. But we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're come back with the green flag, as we've only had the second caution with over 100 laps of green flag. Don't go away. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We are on our second caution here for the Daytona 500. You're watching it on the Global Sim Racing channel. As the lights go off, we're going green. Next time by, a number of cars going to get their lap back. And as we wait for them to circle around one more time, Bill, you got another championship for us?
Oh, yes, we do. Let's go ahead and talk about the legends real quick. That's for drivers that are over 50. I'll bring that up to you right now, and copy by surprise. I didn't think we were going to do this, so if we can show it up there, I'll do it right off the overlay. There we go. Brian Bennett up in front. He's tied there with Jimbo Pfeiffer. Both those drivers racing with us today. Rob Gall's not here. He's in one of the other splits. Brian Barnes and that popsicle machine sitting in fourth position, and Mark Herzog rounding out the Absorbing Junior guys.
And your order for the top 5 on this restart is going to be Reynolds, Pence, Ehlers, O'Keefe is up there, and Mike Franklin. there is your starting order. Reynolds has led most of the way. We've seen the major drivers that we expected to be able to challenge him on pace fall by the wayside.
Quickly, Vincent Labiere got his lucky dog, so he's on the lead lap now. What's interesting now, though, Brian, is Chad Barker decided. Oh no, he did come in finally. Yeah, it looks like he took his pit stop. He was staying out for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Not better.
what the call would have been on that one, but
all right, through turn 4, up towards the tri-oval. Are we going to stay for another long green, or are we going to get a yellows breed yellow situation as the Mustang pace car peels off into the pit lane? Reynolds has control once again, and once again, he does not wait at all.
Timed it perfectly and falls in line. They ran a little staggered coming to the restart. If you notice that on your screen, they ran a little staggered, and then they probably timed or called it out on TeamSpeak, 3, 2, 1, go, and they jumped the 688 easy.
Well, that allows Pence to slot into second. And of course, John Ehlers now up there. We haven't seen a whole lot of him, Bill. Where's he been this whole race?
Well, he's been back there racing with his Elite West buddies. So, okay, he's back there with Thompson and who's the other one that's in that mix as well? Dreiling. So those guys, they've been kind of out of the mix.
Well, unfortunately, they're well far back of their teammate, and he's stuck in the middle of 3 riding shotgun cars.
And I got to report Chad Barker. I reported that he did take his pit stop. He did not. I'm not quite sure what he's up to. He would have been in position. He's the last car now on the lead lap. He's got the wave around, but he's going to have to come in the next 3 or 4 laps. He would have been one of the fastest cars 1 lap down if he would have done it old school. This could come back to really haunt him here.
Yeah, he was trying something. He was hoping for maybe a quick stack up on the restart, a quick caution, something like that. It just didn't pan out.
Now, these top 4 starting to stretch away from 5th place O'Keefe. And the drivers behind him probably wanting to give him the hurry-up mark. Redeker, Thompson, Dreiling, Barnes, and LaHerbier.
Well, if they want to give him the hurry-up, they got to get a little closer. I mean, that's a lot of gap there between Kevin and Mark there. Now Mark's starting to pull up a little bit.
Gets closed in behind him. Surprised we're not seeing maybe a couple cars hooking up on the high side. See a little bit of a peak up top for LaHerbier, but he's got nobody going with him.
Feisty now. He's back on the lead lap.
Yep.
Not feisty enough to get a friend.
Nick Kuhn on pit road with a long stop as well. For anybody wondering what the 19 is up to.
We see that freight train chugging on by, unfortunately for LaHerbier. Of course, maybe he just wants to be out of this pack and get to the tail of the train, but it's a long way back there. All right. Fifth has now caught up to 4th. O'Keefe on the tail end of Mike Franklin.
There's the real sleeper, is Kevin O'Keefe, Rutgers Kev.
We have a checkup a little bit farther back coming into 3, caused Jason Fleischle to have to move up to the high side. Thankfully, no incident, as everybody was aware.
I keep thinking I'm seeing a swarm of hornets, and it's just the Alliance card. It's a very noticeable paint job on this machine.
That's very intentional on their part, I assure you. Wow, LaHerbier still going backwards, now down to 11th place. And, there's Challoner back there. Now, Challoner has returned. I don't know if we mentioned that, but he's many laps down, unfortunately sitting in 28th. And in fact, we've got all of our cars back. Clinton Day has returned.
I noticed that a little while ago.
Well,
yeah, no one to work with. Appropriately racing for underdog. All right, Challoner up to the high side to work with his teammate. seeing what they can get. Oh, and I think I see some Alliance guys deciding it's time to move.
Swarm of Hornets, here they come.
When the KP team has to duck below them, they're not interested in sitting in the back of that group. This Alliance line is not moving at the moment.
Yeah, so here's what's up with Herbier. We saw him dropping. He just went back there to pick up. He knew Challenger was back. Challenger had no chance to win, but he still has a role to play, I think.
Also seeing that Chad Barker has pitted again. Didn't he
No,
get
that's
some...
that's what Brian and I were talking about. He decided to stay out, roll the dice so the yellow would come out, and now he's crushed. I question the strategy.
Ooh, oh, Elite West. One of the drivers tried to jump up in the front of the Alliance line. That was, I believe, Dreiling. Almost bit them, but he got out of the way at the last second. So I think it's not worth going back to see, because right now the Alliance team has started to get the speed going. And I want to watch to see how this plays out. Did I see a car in the infield? Was that Gustavo? Yeah, Gustavo trying to pit, unfortunately blew the entry. So we're not going to be able to see that, but I can report that he'll be getting a bill for the grass. Ooh, they're going 3 wide with the leaders. That number 19 on the high side, the Dog Bear car of, trying to figure out who that is. Streaming backwards, but everybody safely through. That's Nick Kuhn.
I'm a little worried now because all of a sudden we got in the mix. Guys have just been racing around, just putting in miles in the hunt here. John Ehlers up there in the 3rd position.
You can almost feel the intensity starting to pick up very, very slowly here around the Daytona International Speedway. Look at the 77 just driving all the way down to the door. Fleischlich, he's got a whole pack of teammates behind him. None of them are on the lead lap, I don't believe. And he's going to make them push him way out to the front.
Yeah, there's quite a mix of lapped cars and lead lap cars in there.
But as long as you got your buddies with you, that's all you need. Doesn't matter where they are. And he has now worked his way up to 4th, looking at 3rd as they come through 1 and 2. Blake Reynolds still at the front. He does have one teammate behind him, then an Elite West in 3rd, and one more teammate back there if the 82 can somehow manage to jump up. Right now, Mike Franklin, though, is very stuck.
A guy to watch is the 00 car. He's 3rd in line on the outside. That's Jimbo Pfeiffer. He's the lead car of all the ones 1 lap down. He's in the Luppy Dog spot.
He's kind of in the catbird seat right now. Exactly where he'd want to be. He's up there with teammates. Nothing to worry about now, unless the wreck happens right in front of him. If something happens out behind, he could be in a nice spot.
Yep.
Now, we mentioned Kevin O'Keefe being a bit of a dark horse out there. Is he on a team or is he a freelancer? Okay, he's on the Thunder Road team. I was wondering, does he have anybody to work with him?
He's on the Thunder Road.
When you're a Scarlet Knight, you don't need any friends. He's out there racing in 6th, doing it for the Ivy League.
One thing that I love about seeing Rutgers Kev show himself well up here is we're used to seeing him on the roadside, but he's perfectly made for this series, showing that he's also pretty handy, turning left on the high banks. And you've got to be good at both to be able to take any sort of dent into the points in any of the championships. Unfortunately, gets a little bit loose.
Caught the apron there in the middle of the corner. It stalled that whole bottom lane out row behind him. The other thing about Kevin is I believe he races in VR with an Oculus.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah, I jumped in on his stream one night, and I saw him there, and kind of looks like an alien. He's sitting there driving. It's really weird to watch, but
He's of course probably going to blame me for talking about him to cause that checkup there.
Yeah, well, that's 110% on you.
Convenient for the drivers to always be able to put it on somebody else.
Duh, that's how it works.
The top line starting to stall out a little bit. The 77 has made good inroads, but just having a hard time getting up to the 66.
The help's forming up behind him. He's right up now. He got a good run, and a good head of steam off of turn 2, and that drew him towards the rear bumper of the 66 of Reynolds.
Double numbers must be the way to go, because our front row is now made of both of them.
1, 2, 3, 66, 7. No, never mind. Combo break.
Now the 00 though of Jimbo Pfeiffer in our lucky dot spot, third in line on the outside.
Another reason for him to work with his teammates, of course. In fact, is anybody near him? Next one down, Christopher Herlo. Oh, he's actually
Right
pretty
behind
close.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right behind him on the outside. But they're both teammates. There's
So,
two
yeah,
line
yeah.
stripes there.
All right, now the 77 has managed to get himself in contention. We're lap 135 of this race. If you're just joining us, we have only had 2 cautions here in the Pacific split of the majors for the Daytona 500. It has been a lot of green flag racing, mostly calm, but now that we've had our second caution just about 20 laps ago or so, things have kicked up a notch.
Here's the advantage that Fleischle may have. He has his teammate behind him in Thunhorst, but Matthew has no intentions of winning. He's, more than 1 lap down. So his job right now, the job of the 98, is just simply to help the 77.
We should point out, though, that the 73 of Pence, when we talked to, was it Thunhorst? I'm trying to remember which driver it was from that was helping Blake Reynolds at the Clash. I asked him if he had thoughts of trying to go around him, and it was just a straight, flat no. Franklin, excuse me, was the one that was helping him.
Well, if Fleischle can make the top line work and get around Reynolds, he'll have my admiration. That's hard enough to make the top line work, yet alone do it when Reynolds is leading the way down low.
He's done it once already this race, so wouldn't put it past him. Now, where did Reynolds finish in the 2.4? Was he able to take part in that one even? He was. I remember him being out there. Late incident gave him problems is what we're pulling up here. So, remember, he just missed the championship last season, despite winning the most races of anybody. And actually, I believe he set a record for most races won in a single season. So he's got to be hungry for the championship. He's got to be thinking, oh, as Pence ducks up to the high side and almost gives us a 3-wide situation.
It was almost a little bad timing on that one because there's the 688 to fill that gap. He didn't time it right, and then all the Alliance help that was behind him just basically stalled that whole line out.
John Eller's got to be saying, you're kidding me. I am now running second behind Blake Reynolds? Oh, my gosh.
But none of his team nearby to help him either. So Brian, I mean, how nefarious does this get with the teamwork? Does Pence try and check up that second row intentionally?
I mean, if some people decided to do that, he very well could be, because now that line really has stalled out behind him. Now, whether or not that's Alliance kind of looking around going, okay, why do we want to help him? But as soon as I say that, here comes Pence. Goes shove on the problems out back. Put it out. Oh, it's Kevin's in it too.
Franklin is involved. He was the first one, I believe.
Big one strikes again.
Challoner, Redeker, Thompson got part of it.
Watching it from above, this will get us a really good view of what went down. Looks like Tom Dreiling may have had a very narrow escape on this one. Redeker slides to a halt just at the pit entry. Ford Redeker's view.
Wow.
Let's try it one more time from on board with Doyle Lawrence. I believe the seas parted for him.
We're going to watch here the riding shotgun driver well
Sometimes,
back of the incident.
sometimes you just point it straight and hope that it clears out. There you go.
That would be the Days of Thunder maneuver, Bill. Go where the car is
Yep.
and keep the foot planted. Because by
Good
the
news.
time you get there, it's gone.
Good news for Jimbo Pfeiffer. He gets that, I believe he's going to get the lucky dog. Don't think he was in that mix.
Seeing cars now pull into pit lane.
Fleischle staying out.
Oh, look at this. We are 60th. We cannot get to the end from here.
No, that could be that might be the idea with Fleischle. I mean, he can't make it from here anyway. But that also hurt a whole bunch of cars that were probably going to stay out and try and take a wave around.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably, you need at least one of those guys to stay out there and kind of put the herd of cars that would stay out and get on the lead lap. So
Yes.
Ooh, and we got some.
Tom Dreiling and John Ehlers taken too.
Yeah.
Ehlers.
Rolling the dice. And are they both Elite West drivers? Ehlers is, and Dreiling is. Curiouser and curiouser.
now here's the good news for all you fans that are sad of like Barnes and Callisto. Their cars were all torn up. Spare car time.
Absolutely. Definitely for Callisto. And that is exactly why he does that. Always holds on until he absolutely needs it. And just to show how much it works, he's in 14th right now.
Barnes, who was at the tail end of the lead lap in 11th position, he got caught in that, but he comes
Did
out.
Callisto use his yet? I see some damage on his car. I think Callisto got out with minimal damage.
Yes, this
Yeah, I'm
weight.
still seeing that car beat up a little bit.
Yeah, but for Lionel, that's not beat up. It's not time for a fast
buff
repair.
out.
And yeah,
Oh, here we go. He might take it this time through. We'll find out. So he
because
comes
he was a
in.
lap down.
There's all our lap cars now down the pit lane. Sad to see Challenger in that group after he was running so well earlier on. Yep, Callisto took his spare car, popped into place. And Challenger takes his as well, but Challenger sadly so many laps down, highly unlikely he will be able to get back into the mix with still about 58 laps to go. All right, are the lights off on the pace car? Or is this car is waiting to get their laps back up here? Lap 142 out of this 500-mile race. Your order up at the front. Fleischle, Ehlers, Dreiling, Reynolds, and Pence are your top 5. Bill, I understand that you have another bit of info for us on the championships.
Well, we got them all, and we have lots of overlays to keep you entertained during these yellow flags. You know, there's this region going on, but there's also 3 other regions. The International was raced a while ago. Now, that's John King, who won that last week. He actually is from
Malaysia, it looks
well,
like.
he's from the UK, but we don't get to use that Malaysia flag very much. So let's go ahead and put that up because that's where he's racing right now out of. Now in the European, it is Eric Mickey. Of course, Eric Mickey was our spotlighted driver just last Sunday in the Absolute Beginner League. Formula Eagle races every Sunday. Go to globalsimracingchannel.com to find out when you can see that. He had a nice win there. And in the Atlantic, it was Devin Serra won that one under yellow. So there you have it.
Lights are now off on the pace car as they start to get double file.
The more I'm sitting here thinking about it, the more I don't understand Fleischli's strategy.
Boy, I'm a loss too.
He's off on his own. I mean, he's got maybe another 20 laps of fuel in that tank. Yeah, pitting back there didn't get you to the end, but he's gonna be. I mean, maybe Pfeiffer is on that same strategy, and so is Slovaknik. Those are the only two cars that could potentially help him.
And he upset drivers like Barker and Callisto and Bennett and Lawrence. Those guys all probably would have stayed out. Well, I don't know if they could have. They were caught up in that incident. Get the wave around. And what's worse is now if it does come down to a green flag pit stop, his stop is going to be, I mean, even though they all have one more to make, it's going to be twice as long as everybody else because he only has half as much fuel in his tank right now.
Sometimes you have to roll the dice to try and get the win, even at Daytona. We're seeing that with Jason Fleischli. Only the checkered flag will tell whether or not this was a good call. Coming around the high banks on the latter half of the course now. We'll get the green flag this time by. Now that Fleischli is back up in a position to be with Reynolds, can he stay with him? Is it going to be between these two? They've looked very strong for much of this race. But don't forget Ehlers and Dreiling. They're the two that have teammates with them. Pence can hook up with Reynolds if he wants, but as the 77 takes off, he does the big no-no, Brian, and he pulls away from the pack.
Oh, on any other track outside of Daytona or Talladega, that would have been a beautiful restart. The problem at Daytona is now the 06 and the 688. They're going to have a big head of steam here coming off of turn 2. They're going to pull out, going to pull up a little bit of draft, and then...
No, they're going to stay in line.
No, they're going to stay in line. Okay.
77 lucked out there.
That was a couple laps to go. That wasn't going to happen.
Herbier back on the lead lap, up to 5th, but he's on the high side once again. He's got Brian Barnes working with him. There's no room at the end, though. There is 0 gaps for a long ways back.
Here comes Bennett. I'm sorry, Reynolds. You knew Reynolds was going to be...
Here they go.
Finds his
Outside
teammate.
lane.
Oh, and they got a huge head of steam going as they make up their way past those 3 Elite West cars. Not quite past. They had it going. Can they get it going again?
Blake's got to get down a little closer there, and you see him getting down there towards the 688. Then he pulls up, and he gets the run pushed from the 73. Now he's pulling up onto the rear bumper of Dreiling there.
You know, the thing that impresses me most in this is that those Elite West drivers are so rarely apart from one another. They're one of the smallest major teams, and they seem to be the most cohesive group.
That's very clear to see. I mean, just the fact that they're always running together. They've been running together this whole race, and I believe all 3 of those cars probably still have their spare car sitting in the pit road.
I think you pinch one guy, the other guy says, "Ow!" They are that close together.
And those 3 cars are all in position here in the lead group. That's Ehlers Thompson, and Dreiling. Top line starting to stall out just a little bit. Herbier is trying to give the go-ahead. No longer has Challenger with him, sadly. Seen a few of the Alliance guys a little bit farther back, but nowhere near being able to help their friend, the number 77, up at the front. Pfeiffer, Slavonic, Callisto, and Bennett are all together. Callisto looking to the high side and see if he can move to the front of his group. Nobody goes with him, though. Almost 3/4 of the way through this race now. Complexion has changed severely. We saw some very calm, very polite lines of cars for the first half of the race. Since then, it has very much become a double file game. And it's also become a game of, are your teammates nearby? who cares if they're on the lead lap? If they're close, they're going to hook up.
12
Okay.
cars on the lead lap, Mark Redeker being the last of that one. Jimbo Pfeiffer once again a lap down, but in the lucky dog position. But he's going to be running out of fuel pretty soon. He and Fleischle will have to come in at the same time.
They got about 10 to probably 13 laps, depending on how good they were saving under that pit or under that caution flag. But as this race, as this next chapter progresses and we get down to 50 laps to go here coming up, this is where the whole give and take is going to turn into a lot more take and not so much give. And I feel like that's where we can see a little bit more problems as this race reaches its conclusion.
Well,
Now-
let's go ahead and talk about Fleischle real quick and strategy. If he can go another 11 laps, and I think he can, he probably gets in the window to fill it up and be good to go from there. Brian, he could come in and take a stop. Can he get out on the lead lap if he pits from the lead?
It's going to be very close, but the issue that he's going to run into is the pack is going to be...
And they're going to catch him anyway, right?
Yeah, the pack is going to be hurt, flying along there. The only thing he can really hope for is that if he does get caught up by that pack, and there you see almost a contact there between battle of the 06 and the 66. But if Fleischle gets, caught back up by the main pack, if he hangs onto the back, he might have a shot of hanging around in there. But I just don't see the advantage of it from right now.
Well, I guess if he gets to the place where he said he can do it in one more stop, he pits, stays on the back, and then if a yellow comes out, then I guess he cycles his way back up to the lead. Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out.
Herbier got a little loose there.
Could have pitted and stayed right in that same cycle.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Yes.
From the driver's seat at Daytona, the number one rule is you don't want to do something that takes you away, something that you do to yourself that takes you away from the big pack. And Fleischle, and I hope he proves me wrong, because I really want to see how this works out, but he's broken that rule. He's going to be all by himself. Outside of this main pack, he's going to be running where there's nobody else on the track when he comes back out from the pit.
Seen a few more cars duck up to the high side. Looks like Callisto joining on the tail of Herbier, along with Pfeiffer. And a couple other of the Alliance drivers.
Full disclosure, Jason Fleischle did some directing for us here at GSRC. He makes Amjad Yaman sound like Sister Mary Catherine in the director's chair. Jason, very colorful when things would go wrong.
You see a battle out front, 66 on top, 77 on bottom, side by side through turns 3 and 4 at Daytona. Blake going to dive it down a little bit low, pull a little bit of side draft off. Going to probably pull up real even here, coming to the line. This will be a great finish. But we still have 48 laps to go.
Indeed, starting to feel a little bit like Groundhog's Day. I need to check the date because that's 66 and 77 keep finding one another on the front row. I feel like we're starting to see a rivalry brew in this series. The 06 falls off of the back of the 77 quite a ways. Now he closes back up on him. But the 66, is he going to try to chop down? Doesn't quite get enough speed.
Yeah, he didn't quite have the clearance. He could have chopped down, but that would have been a wreck involving that whole package right there that we were staring at. But here we go, side by side, still out front. Reynolds getting the big push from Chris Pence. Now does he drop his teammate and go low? And it looks like he's staying up high for the minute. Yeah, he works his way down.
I'm not surprised at that at all. I'm pretty sure Pence wanted that because he just gave him the
No
biggest
problem!
net
Oh,
code.
there's all 3 of those cars. Oh, and Rutgers is in it. Can't put it out.
That was the big one, my friend, as many, many cars have suffered. Gonna watch it from above. That started with Pence. Now, to these drivers' credit, that was absolutely netcode. We can see that from the replay, just miles away from the car down there.
Well, Callisto was in line to get the lucky dog, but he got caught up in it. Pfeiffer, I think, got a part of it.
John Ehlers, boy, if you can spot his car, it's the one 3 miles in the air. Poor Kevin O'Keefe, another why me moment. And he's already used his spare car once. So unfortunately, that's going to be his chances at a win shot. We're going to watch Ehlers now as he takes one of the biggest tumbles I've seen in a while. Woo!
I've been watching some Olympic half pipe. That would score some points. That's a gold medal spin there.
Look, I think that was 1440 maybe by him.
Yeah.
We're going to watch Pfeiffer's view here on board. The Alliance driver really has nowhere to go in here. Stuck on the high side. Oh, and there it comes. Oh, my goodness. Claimed so many top drivers did that incident.
Brian, is this too early for Fleischle? Oh, you would have liked that to be just a little farther.
Yeah,
laps.
46 laps to go. You're not making it from there.
But what about
But it
Reynolds?
looks like a lot of people are going to try.
This puts them all on the same page, though. Now I would think somebody would stay out.
Oh, this is going to be so tight to the end.
Yeah, but one thing to remember, Fleischle has to take a whole lot more fuel than the cars around him. This is still going to cost him track position.
But not as much as it was going to without that caution. A couple cars look like they're going to try and take the wave around. Because of cars damage, the lucky dog went to Brian Bennett.
And that's going to be a big boon to Jason Fleischle if Bennett and Fleischle can hook up, because we know Bennett can be fast. These cars exit their way out of the pits. Franklin, of course, among those.
I mean, with this race restarting, it's going to get 2 to go right here. It's going to be 40. Golly, that's right on the end of the window. It's right. I don't think I've seen a car run 44 laps this entire race. I think 42, 43 maybe.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw it, but a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago, I should say, we watched another Daytona race, half distance, that wound up being a fuel race. And I wonder if it's going to be a repeat here, depending on if it goes green.
Is that close enough, Brian, that maybe it takes a little of the vim and vigor away from Blake Reynolds now because maybe he can't race like he'd like to? He's got to save fuel?
I think you're not going to see him make the aggressive moves to get out to the outside and lead the pack, because when you're this close on fuel, I don't think you can afford it.
Right.
Okay, other question. We talk about rolling the dice. If you're one of the back marker cars, if you're on the lead lap, do you duck in for fuel as late into the yellow as you can?
I'll tell you what, if I'm Brian Bennett and I'm getting the lucky dog, because he's going to pit 1 lap later, bring it on down to pit road. I think they're going to get 2 to green this time. 1 to green this time. No, 2 to green this time by. Yeah, Brian Bennett's going to bring it down pit road. He's going to hit it, fill that thing up with fuel, and then I would, what? I'd do it again the next time.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of those top front running cars don't have that luxury.
Certainly can't risk giving it up, as we saw Bennett hit his stall nice and clean.
And I wouldn't even leave. I'd leave the pits in 4th gear. Just let that thing chug.
Thankfully, don't have to worry about the car stalling in iRacing. As he works his way out.
Yeah, if there's someone that's going to do it, and you know what? If you're damaged, so like take a look at the 629 of Kevin O'Keefe. Nothing else to run for. Top the thing off, let it run, see if you can sniff the back of the pack, and see what happens.
And even if another yellow does come out, you don't have to come in. You can pick up, at least you'll get up to the front if you get a late yellow.
Correct.
Put you up
But I think if another caution comes out, I don't think you can see these guys pit.
Probably not.
You'll probably see a split. You'll see guys that maybe towards the back half come on in, make sure they know they're good, but the front half guys are going to stay out and save a massive amount of fuel. So we're probably 2 to green this time. What's Bennett doing? 71. I want to see something. What's he going to do?
He's caught the back of them. We'll find out soon. So your order for the top 5 as we wait to see if he pits are Reynolds, L'Herbier, Fleischle, Barnes, and Franklin.
with only 14 cars on the lead lap, if I was Blake Reynolds, I'd almost be tempted to come in and just feel confident in my speed that I wouldn't have to worry about saving fuel.
Well, Bennett stays out.
Yeah, he does. No one else decided to top off.
I was going to say, nobody's going to take the risk.
It's not a gamble if it's a for sure thing.
This is true. Yeah, I'm with you. I could have sworn with us being this close that we'd see at least a few drivers think, I might as well try it. As they catch up to the Mustang pace car, Herbier has to back it up. Put a little bit of an Earnhardt there.
Blake is riding around in 4th gear.
Well, no shock there.
I'd be shutting it off. Can do it on iRacing, and it does save fuel. Shut the car off, throw it in neutral, let it roll a bit, and then drop it in 4th gear in the revolutions from the transmission to basically get it rolling.
I'm really impressed with some of the drivers that have managed to recover and look like they could maybe do something for the win. Herbier, we saw the problems that he had very early. How about Brian Barnes? You know, he got into trouble, and he's back up into these top 5. As well, Mike Franklin, I believe he was in the first incident, I want to say, and he's now back in the front pack.
Blake Reynolds went 43 laps his first stop. That was 43 green flag laps.
That was with the caution, though. Remember, Bill?
Now, I'm looking at lap 44. That was after the caution. So he went from 44 to 80 to 79.
All right. Restart goes once again, and Reynolds this time waits a bit. He has no teammate behind him.
77's checking
Big
up the
checkout.
bottom lane. Did not get up through the gear. Something happened, but now he's rolling. There's that popsicle machine jumping down. Come on down. Get into that spot.
And Barnes takes it.
Kind of. There he goes.
Yeah, he's in there.
He was teeter-tottering there.
He's still kind of peeking up to the high side every now and then. So one of the first times we haven't seen the restart, go as soon as that pace car peels off. Caused a bit of confusion. I believe actually it was Herbier who had to check up, and then everybody behind him had to check up. That's what caused the 77 to kind of maybe get bogged down on that restart. $40 laps to go now. Did anybody come in for pit stops? That's another question.
The last time by.
No,
Yeah.
looks like everybody stayed out.
Whoa, big
there's-
moment.
Sorry.
Yeah, Kevin O'Keefe going up to the high side, and I think he caught Michael Thompson out as they start to lose touch with that group ahead. O'Keefe, of course, dealing with damage now from that last caution, and you can see the speed that is costing him.
Footnote, Chris Pence. Well, no, he's back. So I manually disconnected. I didn't read the next line in the chat. A couple cars did take the waiver on that last time by. Lionel Callisto back on the lead lap finally. Chad Barker and Doyle Lawrence and Patrick Fleming all took a wave around to get back onto the lead lap. Gustavo Schifarni, there we go, Schifarni, we're going to go with that. Adam Young, Trevor Clement, Drew Lalonde, Stacy Hunter, all took a wave around to get either back to 1 lap down or 2 laps down.
14 cars on the lead lap. 4 of those are going to have to pull off early, certainly not get to the end because they took the lave around. 10 drivers trying to go the distance.
So at least one driver back there with severe damage to the front. I'm guessing he got called in because I don't think that car can do a 53 lap. That was John Ehlers.
Yep. Right. Oh, front of that car is gone.
Yeah, no, I'd be amazed if it can do a 53 lap.
Throw 4 tires at it and see what happens.
To watch this front pack, the order now: Reynolds, L'Herbier, Barnes, Fleischle, and Franklin for your top 5, and they are starting to put a gap on 6th place Herlo.
Talk about Herlo. Herlo and Bennett are the 2 drivers that have gone 1 lap farther, I guess we'll put it that way. They have 1 lap less to go on the tank of fuel. They pitted a lap later than everybody else.
I mean, I'm thinking that they're going to be all right, but golly, is it going to be close?
The way that the cautions have started to come out, I wonder if these drivers are expecting another caution, and hence why we didn't see anybody come in to top it up.
That's very possible as well.
Just to follow up on that stint I was talking about with Reynolds. Green flag all the way through. He pitted on lap 44, and he made it all the way to 87. That's 43 green flag laps. Boy, that's real close to what
We
he
restarted with 43 to go.
Right. Right. But he had a couple yellow flag laps before that, yeah. So.
We'll take a look at this high side. The number 77 of Fleischle jumps up, and why is that? Well, there's the 80 of Herlo and the 71 of Bennett joining him, and I believe they could possibly grab Jimbo Pfeiffer if he could just get a little closer to this train.
There's that Alliance outside picking up steam again.
Alliance really been the group that has made that high side work incredibly well. We've seen Ride and Shotgun do it fairly decently, but they've most often not needed to.
Gives me shivers to quote Darrell Waltrip, but I mean, there really are goers and comers here. You look at Vincent Leherbier, remember, he fell way back. We said, who could challenge Reynolds? And we said, well, maybe if Herbier could get up there, he's up there again. And how about Barnes? He was racing back there, back to the lead lap, and got caught up in the incident, came to get a fast repair, now sitting in 4th.
Daytona giveth and Daytona taketh away.
Fleischle was in no man's land. Remember, we saw him between those 2 grids. Now he's back in the hunt.
It is a long, long race to run 500 miles, and you can't give up because you just don't know what is in the cards as things progress. Now that Fleischle has his teammates with him, he's moving upwards, almost side by side with L'Herbier. And these 2 teams, that Alliance team and that Ride and Shotgun team, have shown themselves to almost be the Penske and Ganassi of the majors. And if you want to throw another comparison in there, I'd say Elite West, if anything, have become the Andretti to those 2 that sometimes steal things away.
I'm just happy that the Mountain West team that Brian Barnes races for lets him keep that beautiful blue car.
Oh, and we got a caution.
Oh.
I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Turn 3, 4.
Oh, there is Gustavo. See, we've got the replay pulled up. Let's try and figure out what went down. Oh, and it was one of the Elite West drivers, actually. Speaking of them, that's Thompson that he gets into. Just gives him a tap at the wrong time, and we didn't see it from the onboard, but poor Clinton Day. Just, you talk about a Daytona 500 to forget for some of these drivers, Brian. He didn't even hit those 2 cars. He just checked up and tried to get out of the way and found the safer barrier was a little bit closer than he anticipated.
Well, that worked out for those guys that stayed out.
Yep.
They're about 10 laps away from the pit stop. This is going to put everybody happily safe. The question will be is if the leaders pit to make sure they get enough.
I got to figure if they felt like doing it, rolling the dice, now with that yellow, they're going to stay out. Those guys who did the wave around that got those laps back, they can come in, though, and top off.
Oh, yeah.
Fleming, O'Keefe, and Will Thompson is hurt.
Jimbo's going to get on the lead lap, too. He's the lucky dog last time.
Well, Blake is looking like he's teasing. Nope, he's going to stay out.
He was bored for a minute.
Any takers? Anybody coming in?
Yeah,
there's
the guys that took the wave around the last time. Like I said, they should put Pfeiffer back on the lead lap.
So, Brian, does this put the drivers that are pitting now in a better position, though? Is it still close enough for the leaders on fuel that they could need to conserve, and these drivers pitting now could be a hard charger in the final laps?
No, they're going to get 4 laps of caution here, and that's going to be more than enough to put Reynolds, Herbier, Fleischle, Barnes, all these guys. That's going to easily put them into the window to make it.
We'll find out soon. We're going to be around 30 laps to go when we come back to green. We're going to take a break on the Global Sim Racing channel, hopefully take you all the way to the checkered flag. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway here on the Global Sim Racing channel. You're watching the Daytona 500 Round 2 in the 2018 Majors. And we are going to get the green with about 30 laps to go. Hopefully all the way to the checkers. But boy, the way things have been heating up, I wouldn't count on it. We've only had 4 cautions, so it's been an incredibly fast race. Your top 5 starting order is going to be Blake Reynolds, Vincent Larabier, Jason Fleischle, Brian Barnes, and Christopher Herlow. So a number of Alliance drivers up at the top, while we've only got 2 of the riding shotguns. They've been dwindling down while the Alliance guys have been able to withstand the attrition that has started to pick up in the latter half of this race. Mustang pace car peels off, and once again, we've got Blake Reynolds in control. And once again, he doesn't go right away, checks him up a little bit.
Wow.
big checkup for L'Herbier. He gets tapped. Doesn't get a black flag as he stays behind the leader, but it's causing a 3-wide situation. We're seeing one of the riding shotgun cars try to squeeze his way through.
Barnes had to check up, and he's going to lose a ton of positions on the outside.
Dangerous moments. Everybody gets away, just wiping the sweat off their brow. And this hurt L'Herbier as well. Look at him tumble. This is going to change the order. Reynolds is now in the lead. Fleischle has bumped up to second. Herlo into third. Bennett fourth. And Franklin is now fifth. But the important thing, Bill, is that there is a string of Alliance cars going from second to fourth.
Yeah, it's 3 Alliance cars sandwiched between Franklin and Reynolds, the shotgun guys.
Starting to see some of the pressure just heighten out there as it comes down to the final stages of this 500-mile race. Brian, you were talking about it earlier on, that we could just feel how the behavior of the cars and the tension in the air was changing around us.
You're witnessing it on track right now as these guys, they know what's on the line. We're coming to 28 laps to go here at Daytona. This is what it's all for. This is what it's about.
Top of the show, we said there are some races that you want to win more than any others. The Daytona 500 means so much to these oval racers. That is a stamp of what you can achieve, of what it means out here. Surviving the chaos, showing that you've got the knowledge to set the car up to be fast out there. You have the teamwork to stay up there. But what does it mean when it comes down to these final 20 laps? Comes down to instinct, to that driver's gut feeling. And Blake Reynolds so far has shown he's got it.
Reynolds has got to realize that he's in a very lonely position because, yeah, he's leading the race right now, but behind him are 3 Alliance cars that we know are not afraid to jump out to the outside and basically put themselves into a position to win this race.
So far, they're staying put. Haven't seen any moves from them. Wonder if that's intentional, if they want to try and keep himself and his teammates separated as long as possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it's probably the strategy that at the moment they didn't devise it, but as they realized what happened, yeah, I mean, they're keeping Blake away from, is that Mike Franklin there in the 82?
Yeah, Franklin.
Yeah. And then behind Franklin, how about the dog-beard racer there, Chad Barker? He's back.
Back. We haven't said a thing about him since earlier in the race. Now he finds himself in 6th spot.
Well, those fast drivers somehow find a way.
If you look just beyond where we're talking about, the 311, Patrick Fleming, there is an Alliance driver. You look just a couple spots back, the 528, Paul Slavonic. That is an Alliance driver. He's got the 111, another Alliance driver. So these guys are lurking through the field, kind of like sleeper agent cells where they could just strike really at any moment.
And there was another the number 2, Lionel Kalisto. He's Alliance as well. So yeah, they are very much dotting the field. Easy to do when you've got 9 cars out there in your team overall. We should clarify too that the 9 cars are split up between 2 teams.
Alliance Racing and Alliance Evolution. So they don't score points, but honestly, they're out there to get their teammates a win.
Yeah, they know. We know what's up. They know what the plan is. But I mean, yeah, there is 25 laps to go. It wouldn't surprise me. I could see it going either way. You could see, Fleischle, Herlo, and Bennett jump out really at any point, or they might just be very, very content to wait until getting down to wind down towards the event. Here's the thing to remember, though. You don't want to wait until the end of the race because iRacing does not do green-white checkers. So if you're thinking, all right, we're going to make this move at 2 to go, and the caution comes out with 3 to go, well, you just blew a hole in your foot.
No, you gotta go maybe lap 4 when they come around.
I would say they want to make their move with 7 to go.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Because by the time that it's going to take that outside lane to form up, because they know that the 82 is going to get up there to the 66. Now, 3 of them could pass one car on their own. So if you're coming around, I would say 6 or 7 to go is probably the magic number, because from then you just ride it out. You finish 1, 2, 3, and you're the heroes.
If you're Reynolds, are you looking in your mirror and minding the gap to Fleischle? If you see Fleischle laying back, are you kind of going back with him so he doesn't get a run on you, or are you just have
Absolutely. Blake Reynolds has 2 eyes in the cockpit right now. He's got one looking down. He's somehow trained the other one to look up at the mirror, because he can just, you're basically, when you're racing at Daytona and you're in a situation like Blake is, you're driving through the corner, as weird as it's going to sound, you're staring in the mirror. You're not watching the track at all. You're just catching it with your peripheral, looking out the front, but you're staring in that mirror. So he's looking at the 77. See, look at the 77's going high. Blake goes up a little bit high. He comes back down. And he follows. You're mirror driving just to try to stay ahead, because I think Blake realizes the situation he's in.
And that actually brings up a good point, and I'm not totally sure. I'll have to see if we can talk to the stewards real quick. Are there any rules about blocking out here?
Well, we found blocking has a very wide definition. I think the universal acceptance is one move. If you do one swerve, if you start weaving all the way down the backstretch like you're trying to make a blanket, I think that they're going to be they're going to frown upon that.
Let me take this strategy one step farther. Since you have 3 cars in a row, could not Fleischle stay on the back of Reynolds? I mean, if he wanted to sacrifice his chance for winning, maybe let the 80 drop back a little bit farther, get the run, and try to do both of them?
Absolutely. Why not? I mean, I fully intend, now that you're sitting here and we've studied this now for the last couple laps, yeah. I really feel Alliance is going to want to finish 1, 2, 3. That's their primary goal. And then if they can somehow kick Blake and his teammate out, they'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and sweep the whole top 5.
If you missed the clash earlier on a couple weeks ago, that's exactly what the Riding Shotgun team did. Took the podium. They said that they wanted to take the top 5, just like you mentioned. I'm sure that was lighting a fire under the Alliance guys, saying, that's what we're going to do to you. And I think as we watch the 77 just continue to stalk and wait behind the number 66, and we're seeing the high side come in. Oh, look at this. It's got the KP team and it's got the Alliance team steaming up the outside.
It's going to be a matter of time before these front 3 Alliance guys, if they jump up there. But you got to know, I mean, here they come on the outside. They're almost to the rear bumper there of Franklin. Not Franklin, sorry. They're up to the Bennett.
L'Herbier has just got a huge head of steam.
If they want to go, they got to go now. They have to go now. Come on.
And he's got his partner behind him, even though he's several laps down.
Here we go. Here goes Alliance, and here goes Blake with the block, but it's going to be in vain. Oh, we got powers. There goes Herbier.
But he's off into the grass. No caution. What's happening up front?
We're going to be okay. No caution there. Now it's all jumbled up out front.
We're watching the replay real quick. I'm keeping an eye on the front in case anything erupts. But you can see that Alliance car just dipped down way too late, and the 027 suffer the results. So we come back live. 2 Alliance cars on the high side, 1 stuck down behind Reynolds.
Now, see, here's Alliance is in a spot where they could very easily manipulate this too, because you could have the 77 and the 80 get a huge head of steam at things, and the 71 could really just lay off the 67.
77 manages to get his nose ahead, but not far enough that he can duck down.
Now, Challenger is not in this. Remember, that's a 78. He was teamed up with
Herbier,
but now with Herbier gone.
We're going to go through 3 wide in the tri-oval. Lap car stays wide.
I got it.
Who was that, Bill, that gets the bear claw?
That would have been Gustavo Scianfarini.
There we go.
Since he's from Italy, it's probably some type of Italian pace.
Brazil, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Italy, Brazil, close enough.
Speaking of getting the boot. All right, it's become 2 rows of 3 with a little straggler in the form of Chad Barker. Oh, and Challenger ducks down to the low side. Remember, he doesn't have anything in this. He's really doesn't have anything to earn except maybe trying to get back on the lead lap. which he can't even do anyways. He's so many laps down.
Vengeance for his teammate.
Oh, is that his teammate there? That's his teammate on the high side, just slipping backwards, I think. Oh, nope, sorry, similar paint scheme. That's Nick Kuhn.
Yep, no, now that the Herbier is gone, that's really nothing for Challenger to do.
What happened to Fleischle? He drops way back.
Yep. Fleischle's going to go back and pick up the 80. And then who's that hanging off the back bumper of the 80? No, that's not another line.
No, that's Parker for Dog Bear. They're trying to get him, though. They know that he could help. There they go. Now they're sucking Barker in.
I'm amazed at Blake Reynolds' driving ability here. He's able to fight off all of these Alliance guys.
Brian Bennett now sitting. Who would have thought earlier on in this race, Brian Bennett, who was hanging on at the front pack, trying desperately to get a caution to get his lap back, is now in second place, and he gives the tap to Blake Reynolds.
I guess it's just going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. Alliance guys are starting to form up at the back of the pack. They're going up to the outside.
I was just about to say, Bill, do you got a bugle in amongst your musical instruments? Because the cavalry has arrived.
Quite arrived yet, but I guarantee you Bennett can hear the horses hoofing it back there.
They're trying to get that high side going. Oh no, the 80 is going to be caught out. Fleischle.
Are they shuffling around? Does Fleischle? No, I thought Fleischle maybe had a little bit of damage, and they're shuffling things around a little bit.
Remember back to the very beginning of the race, it was Barker leading the train of Alliance guys that was able to make that first move on the top side. That looks how it's going to set up right now.
I'm going to say, it looks like he made a very powerful friend, because it looks like they're trying to get him up there.
No,
never mind.
Missed the train.
He missed it.
But the 71, he needs to watch out. His team's coming.
I guarantee you, they're on the radio right now, and they're going to tell him exactly when to jump up. I thought the 82 might jump up there and try and break up that outside.
He thought about it, but the time has passed for that. He's now stuck on the low side as the 80 of Herlo. Now trying to pick up the number 71 of Bennett. 13 laps to go. Our lead pack.
Alliance is formed up way in the outside, 4 cars deep.
Lead pack is in no threat from the cars behind. Patrick Fleming, a whole second back from these top, let's see, 9 cars? 9 cars.
The timing is going to be crucial here for the outside line. They have to get that run perfect.
They seem to be struggling a bit up in this high side.
We've seen them do this the whole race. They'll get up there, they'll stall out, and then they'll kind of, all of a sudden, they're going to just come out of nowhere.
Got a bit of a gap between Fleischle and who is that third in line there?
Bennett's not jumping up.
Maybe they want him in the back of the train.
I don't know who they're picking to win this thing. They're trying to make a run for it.
Got a little bit more steam this time, as you said, up beside the 71.
Now watch this run. The 80 is going to come down, going to get a huge shove from Fleischle.
Ooh, and this,
there it is.
The 71's also getting to push from the 82.
Yep. There's
a little bit of lap traffic.
27 staying high. Battle for the lead now as Christopher Herlo has jumped up to the outside with the push from Fleischle back there. He's gotten up to that outside lane, gotten to the rear bar. He got all the way up to the door and then stalled out. There we go at that line. That would have been a heck of a finish as well. But guess what? Still 11 laps to go.
He gets another shove up into 1.
He's not clear yet. Not yet. He's going to get a good run off of the corner here, off of the bumper of Fleischle. There they go. They are locked in. Watch that. Watch that.
Can they both get them potentially? The 77 is clear. Can he duck down? They do. They've got him.
Got it. Close the door. Now, if you're Blake Reynolds, what do you do?
You try and find your teammate, Mike Franklin, somewhere
But
in this
Franklin,
mess.
he's surrounded
no
by
way.
3 Alliance cars. They're not going to let him get out of there.
Yeah, they are boxing him in, actually.
Reynolds looking high, looking low. He's looking everywhere, trying to get a lane, trying to get somewhere to run.
And suddenly, keeping the 71 in his position becomes clear. Look at that. Staying right there, making sure he cannot get to Blake Reynolds. My goodness.
And Blake Reynolds is going to take matters into his own hands, jump into the outside of Fleischle all by himself. Can he make it work? We've seen him get up there on his own. He's driving right to the door. He needs some help.
And who is this on the outside? Another lapped car. Is that another Alliance machine? Yeah, it is. That's Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer getting the lucky dog the last time by.
Oh, it's getting so
Blake
close.
He is fighting for everything he's worth.
He's making it work. He's not dropping backwards. Look at how close they're running.
He's getting right where he needs to be. He needs the 82 to get a run and get free. Oh, a little bump and shove it. Make some room. 82 is free and clear of the Alliance. He could jump up. There he goes. There goes the 82. Now, Blake Reynolds is going to have a teammate in the 82 to fight the Alliance. I've been waiting all night to say that.
We're going to get 8 laps to go.
Challenger, the wild card, jumps up there. He's got no dog in this fight. Let's push whatever goes. I've been told they're pro teammates. That makes sense.
Well, they're not necessarily
buddy.
teammates. Yeah.
Blake Reynolds is taking the lead back. Power move with a shove from the 82. 82 with the doorstick, the 80, and he shoved way up high. That's going to give the 80 a big run, big head of steam off of the front bumper of Fleischle.
These drivers need to be careful. We've already seen netcode causing incidents once. As they get too close, it could yet happen again. Going to be 7 to go this time by.
Herlo, when does he pull out? He's light. He's right in the tire tracks and right in the draft of Blake right now. But that 82 is starting to fall back on the outside, and Alliance is formed back up on the inside.
Yes, but the tables have turned. They can't get high because the 82 is out there with Challenger.
Yeah,
They're playing them with their own game. Box them in, keep them from getting a run.
Here we go. Down the backstretch. 7 laps to go, coming to 6 laps to go this time. Blake Reynolds holding on and driving for every bit of what he's got, in every ounce of talent in those pedals and that steering wheel. 82's falling back on the outside. Franklin just doesn't have the push and doesn't have the go from Challenger. Here comes Alliance back to the outside.
But Bennett doesn't go with him. Bennett's still on the low side.
But he could still play the role of spoiler back there. Give that lap to Herlo. Herlo being pushed from Fleischle. Reynolds getting pushed from Bennett. And the clean line, he makes the room.
Herlo up into the lead with inches to spare between himself and the 66 of Reynolds. Reynolds doesn't like that, and he goes to the high side.
He's looking
when
high.
he goes with him.
And Herlo doesn't have any help at the current split second. All the help is up there. Here comes Bennett rushing to the bottom, and Blake clears him to the lead.
Things getting all jumbled up between the teams. One of the Alliance guys in the back ducks up to the high side, maybe thinking he could get up there and help, make it 4 cars up at the front. Right now, 3 versus 2.
5 laps to go at Daytona. It all comes down to this. 10 miles worth of racing. Here comes Fleischle on the outside of Herlo now.
But he's only got the 82 behind him. That's a right-in shotgun teammate. He's not going to want to help them.
Blake Reynolds jumps up high. He's going to try to take the push from Fleischle. That's going to leave the door open for Herlo. Can Herlo get a run from Bennett? No. Blake jumps back. He's playing both lanes here, doing everything he can.
We did get some information on what you can do as far as moves. Blocking is not permitted in the series outside of 1 move. So they need to be careful in these final laps, especially as we saw from Reynolds there.
Well, and 2 things here. That's the last lap car that these guys are going to have to deal with. There's nobody in the front of the track. We are now within the window and the point of no return. The next flag, boys and girls, in the stream is going to end this. Blake Reynolds leads off the turn 2, down the back stretch. He's got Herlo in behind him. Herlo has Bennett. Fleischle to the outside.
Herlo wanted to move up through 1 and 2, but just couldn't make it in time. He had to duck down low once again. Fleischle starting to move backwards.
He's starting to move backwards. They've dropped the help on the outside. Now does Alliance jump to the outside to pick him up?
They haven't yet. They do. Oh, and the 82 blocks him. He's not going to let him get with his teammates.
Big block right there now. But now it's also hurt Blake, because now that's taken his teammate far away from it. Here comes Challoner. He's got no horse in this fight up here in the front. But now it's basically Blake Reynolds versus 2 Alliance drivers. And then where does Chad Barker come in? Where's he going to push?
And the 77 has some more help behind him. Look at this. Oh, but another block there from the number 82. Jumping wherever they go. The 80 goes high. 71 down on the low side by himself.
Side by side, teammates coming to 2 laps to go at Daytona.
They're getting awful close together. The 71 giving a push to the 66.
Oh,
has no choice.
Shoving, little bumping. Come on, boys, keep it together.
Barker up to third now with a look on the inside.
Barker, where's he coming out of nowhere?
Everybody else is playing team tactics. He's just picking up the pieces. Could we see the 18 take a surprise win? Could the 78 help him?
I mean, Alliance is lined up in the back, but they're not going to be a run from the outside. So to me, this is going to come down to who jumps up to where. Blake Reynolds leading through turns 3 and 4. They will see the white flag this time, boys and girls.
The number 66 going wherever that number 71 goes. He's watching his mirror. As Brian said, mirror driving the whole way around. If they come together, no caution from here on out. It is green to the finish. Reynolds is your leader. Brian Bennett looking up to the high side. He has nobody to help him. Has to duck back in line. We see the number 82 of Franklin dropping back as he's hung out to dry. 71 poking once again. Can he get the 18 to go? 18 thinks about it. He comes back in line. Still the number 66 up in the lead. The 78, that lap car, he could be the spoiler.
A huge block. They make a little bit of contact. Blake Reynolds and Brian Bennett putting on a clinic here, but I think it's going to be too little too late. Blake Reynolds going to lead it off a turn 4. The rocket behind him, but it's not going to matter.
Blake Reynolds comes to the line. The number 66 takes the win at the Daytona 500.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Bennett's going to take second. Barker gets third. Fleischle recovers to fourth. Herlo gets a top 5. How about Lionel Kalisto recovering to 7th after being mired down 2 laps down at one point? Let's watch this incident, exactly what happened here.
Franklin, these guys were both a lap down. I believe, was Franklin in the mix?
Franklin was. He was the one that got turned. He tried to come down in front of Thunhorst, who was a lap down. Not going to be happy about that one, I'm certain, because he cost him a very good finish. Actually, did Franklin get it going and cross the line at all? He did eventually, and he came home in 12th. Whew, what a race. 500 miles. Reynolds didn't even have help. Help be darned. The number 66 won anyways, proving why he has that black stripe on that car. As his teammates give him a little playful nudge. We're going to go to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel as the Riding Shotgun team burns it down. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around. You'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We just watched round 2 in the 2018 majors. It was the Daytona 500. And Blake Reynolds had his team to help him get up there, but in the end, he had to do it himself, and he took the win away from Alliance, who tried everything through just about every teammate they had at him. Brian Bennett wound up in second. Chad Barker, how about Dog Bear, coming through as well? They did really have help for Chad up there, and he gets a podium. Jason Fleischle manages a fourth, at least a good points haul for the former champion. Christopher Herlow led at a couple points, but in the end just gets a top 5. Patrick Fleming as well. These are all Alliance drivers that we keep mentioning. He gets a 6th. Lionel Kalisto, Alliance again, you guessed it. He gets 7th. And then we get to Brian Barnes, finally non-Alliance, finishing in 8th. Mark Redeker gets a 9th. And Doyle Lawrence, we didn't mention him a whole lot, but hey, a top 10 for him. Let's go to Bill.
Last 2 cars on the lead lap. It's Rutgers Kevin O'Keefe in 11th, and 12th is Mike Franklin in the Baker's Dozen. How about Jimbo Pfeiffer? Adam Young is 14th ahead of Vincent Leherbier. All ribbons and curls in the sweet 16th position is Paul Slavonic. Drew Lalonde behind him. Stacy Hunter, Matthew Thunhorst, and Ray Partridge round out your top 20.
In P21 tonight, Christian Challoner, after the network connection issues that he had. Gustavo, why do I always get stuck saying this?
Call him Sea-Dog.
Gustavo finishes 22nd. Chris Pence 23rd. Nick Kuhn 24th. 25th, 20 laps down. Trevor Clement, Michael Thompson in 26th. And then some guys that really had some bad nights. John Ehlers in 27th. Ehlers. I was getting there around. And Tom Drayling in 28th, and Clinton Day 29th on the field.
Blake Reynolds, who is celebrating in victory lane, is going to join us to talk about those final few laps. Blake, you had one teammate, but it's like you couldn't get to him. How in the world did you stay in front of just what was a swarm of Alliance cars?
I don't know, man. That just kind of, I really pulled that out. Man, what a race. We had so little cautions compared to everything I saw leading up to this race today and all the other splits. And I was just expecting, a wreck fest, but hardly that. We had half the field on the lead lap. And those last 10 laps, my goodness, I think I had the power of Dale there blocking every run I had.
So you've now won both the Clash and the Daytona 500, really proving that you are the master of Daytona this year. Does this help your momentum going forward, even though only one of them is an official win in the series? Are you already thinking about the championship?
I'm just thinking about the other combinations of cars, tracks, and stuff, because I think we have one less Gen 6 race this year, and that kind of hurts my cause. But, yeah, I mean, to open up with a second, first, and first so far this season, even though one's unofficial, it's pretty good.
We talked about at the start of the broadcast how some races mean more and drivers want to win certain racers more than others. Is this the most important one to you, getting the Daytona 500, or is there another one you're looking forward to more that you want to win?
Well, I like the Coke 600 every year. That's by far my favorite race of the entire year. Just, Gen 6 car, and it's not plate racing. It takes actual, skill and stuff. It takes more than just your steering and your 8-foot. Requires your brake too. So I like that race too. But this is a big race too, and to have the rocket ship that we had to win the race, that's definitely an accomplishment.
Well, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you in the next round.
Thanks, Joe.
That was Blake Reynolds, winner here today, stomping on everybody here at Daytona on the oval. Up next, Brian, I believe, has Brian Bennett, so it's going to be a pair of Brians talking to one another about the Alliance team now.
It'll be the Brian and Brian show here. Brian, you had an up and down night the entire race. I guess, how did you end up there? I mean, you started out 23rd and you found your way back up to the front, man. How'd that go?
Brian, do you have a copy?
Oh, I just popped in. I thought my computer was locked up. Say again your question, please, Joe.
Well,
Right.
you're speaking to Brian, so we got the Brian and Brian post race show going on here. You started 23rd on the night, you finished second. You were kind of up and down the scoring pylon. I mean, really quick, tell us about your night.
Well, obviously it was pretty exciting. I don't know if you talked to Blake yet, but man, oh man, I was those last 20, 30 laps were intense. Whew. It was one heck of a night. I practiced pit entries a bunch, but I executed one of them properly tonight. So that's what really got me in trouble over the course of the event. I had a fast car, thanks to teammates, of course. Mark Herzog, who wasn't even in this split, found our setup, the baseline, and then Jason and Trevor did most of the work developing it. I was out of town most of last week and the week before, and I didn't get to help much. So I just drove the thing. It was good.
It looked good. You're very stable. I mean, talk to us there about those closing laps when you were throwing everything you had at Blake, and you guys are passing each other. You had help. I mean, we figured Alliance, you guys would have jumped up there to the top lane and sailed right on by. I just talk us through those last couple laps from the team side and then from the driver's side.
Well, I suppose if we had, Chris Hurlow and Lionel up there, and more oval pro types, we would have executed better. But I was there was only 2 cars up high. There was never really a gap to go for 3. And we hadn't been able to push past them effectively all night long, more than 1 car at a time. And there at the end, Jason got hung out. And it was me and Chris. And then, shit was happening awful fast. Oh, pardon my French. And I was just, I figured Blake couldn't block everybody. So he was out working on Chris. And I went inside to try to, you can't block everybody. And then Chris got stiffed. And here I am, and Chris is not. So I'm a little bit of a jackass for the team, but there's only so much room on the track, and if I don't hear the spotter because I'm focused on everything else, I don't want to door somebody into the freaking wall, and it was just too tight for that not to happen.
Understood. I mean, how did you feel that the track progressed from the start of the race to the end of the 200 or 500 miles?
I felt solid all night long. We could do anything we wanted out there. It was good.
Beautiful. Well, Brian, any final thoughts before we send you on your way to celebrate your second place finish?
Once again, thanks to my the team, the developers, the race developers, the set developers, I should say, and then Mike and his crew for all the hard work they do. That's it. They laid this table out for me, and I just drove.
All righty. Well, Brian, thanks for catching up with us. We will catch you on down the road.
Roger that. Thanks to you guys for the excellent coverage you give. Bye.
That was Brian Bennett, second place finisher. We also have the bottom step of the podium, Chad Barker, ready to talk to Bill Zahn about how he managed to do it without anybody in terms of friends nearby to help.
Chad, Dog Bear Racing, they brought 4 bullets to the gunfight. You had 4 drivers around. You couldn't find any of them the whole race. Seemed like you're by yourself.
Yeah, I was. They were back a ways, and I got to thank the 3 that were there, Drew, Nick, and Ray, because they were talking to me the whole time and keeping me calm and telling me it wasn't over and we still had a shot. And sure enough, we did still have a shot.
Oh, yeah. Before we go to the end, let's talk early on. Really impressive as you were the first guy to make that top line work. Early on, you got to the front. That was a nice run.
Yeah, I got to thank Alliance for that, and Alliance at the end as well. They let me be a part of their little line up there. And they didn't give up on me, so thanks to them.
For a minute, based on what you did early on, I thought they were going to put you to the front of the train and let you run the outside line, but wouldn't quite let you get the lead.
No. I mean, they're still in it for themselves, but they did work nicely with me, and I appreciate that.
Late, you had a run down the inside. You have no room. They were guarding it, but boy, some close, clean racing you guys put on to the very end.
Yeah. There was actually a couple 0Xs coming across the start-finish line for the white flag lap, and I gave it everything I had, but Blake is just amazing. He was just super strong, and it's hard to get by him.
Is oval your specialty?
Yeah, I'm an oval guy. I'm not very good at the roadside.
Well, that's what this is all about. We'll see if we can get some points for Dog Bear Racing when we go to the twisty sections from some of the other guys. Hey, congratulations on the podium finish.
Thank you, guys.
It's a good run from Chad Barker as he finishes a third. He was up at the front, went back, and came back up to get that final podium.
Finally, we have our 4th place finisher, Jason Fleischle, as well, to talk about his run up at the front for most of this race. And Jason, we have to ask, with the ride and shotgun team sweeping the podium at the Clash, did that kind of incentivize the Alliance team? Were you guys trying to get them back for that in this race and try to do the same thing to them?
No, to be honest, we were just trying to take advantage of our strength and numbers. We prepared really super hard, and we were just trying to give Ride and Shotgun an honest run on what is their home turf.
Time and time again, we saw you up at the front row, running that high side with your Alliance teammates, pushing you, competing with Blake Reynolds. Was that intentional by the team? Were you kind of chosen as the fastest guy, or was it just coincidence?
It was just coincidence that I was the front car, and so would put on a little bit more tape for that kind of a push. And I got to thank all the guys, everybody on my team. I wouldn't have been anything in that race without them.
Last question before we let you go. Those final 10 laps, tell us a little bit about what's going through your mind when you've run nearly 500 miles and you find yourself in a position to maybe take the win.
And it's just everything happens so fast. Mainly I'm just like, don't hit this car left, don't hit that car right. We'll stay out of the wall, no apron. Just like take care of the car. Let's bring it home, bring home. It's a real handful trying to get around any of the riding shotgun guys. They're just so skilled at super speedway. It took me probably, I don't even know, 5 laps to get around Mike, after I got behind him. So those guys are so good.
Jason, real quick, this is Soup here. Some of the commentators were criticizing your pit strategy with about 60 to go. I want to say I was on board the whole time. It was all Brian Yosick, okay?
No, they're right. They're right. That was a bonehead move on my part. Yep. Brian's got you, Soup. I thought it was close pit at the time, and I just thought, I'm over half a tank. I need to go, and it was a total bonehead mistake on my part because I hung out my boys who were hoping to get their lap back, and I didn't mean to do that.
Good luck to you down the way.
Thanks, Soup.
I knew if he was going to be so polite about it, I would have taken credit for criticizing him.
God, even outside of the race car, when we're commentators, we're competitive with one another. But anyways, we're going to close up today. And we want to thank Mike Willett and his entire team for putting on the majors. It's a huge undertaking. We can't stress that enough, and a very thankless job. So big thank you to you guys behind the scenes. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Bill, Brian, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. The next race, we're finally going somewhere away from Daytona. We're going to Phoenix. In fact, another oval. It'll be in the Silver Crown. That'll be Sunday, March 18th at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.